Welcome, everybody. Happy to see you here. Happy we can join in together and have a deep dive into the heart of it all. And we've had kind of a theme this week going on starting with Ken's Get Real show, Zoom show, and live streaming. The theme was desire. And actually, Jesus, in his song of prayer, he says that your prayer is your desire. So desire and prayer are synonymous. And that's important to realize because a lot of us were raised, maybe we came through religious traditions where the priest or the minister said, oh no, they're definitely different. Your prayers and your desires are not the same. You might have even said that the desires are of the devil. and you better learn how to pray to God. But Jesus is telling us that your prayer is your desire. And also that we have a very powerful mind. So you might say, if you think of the altar of your heart, or you think of the prayer of your heart, you know that spiritual awakening is part of a spiritual transformation, I'll say, or purification, and nothing more. Because if God created you whole and perfect, then it must be that you are still as God created you. And yet, if you believe something to the contrary, then you would need a purification. You would need a transformation of consciousness to remember the truth of who you are. So that's a beautiful context. And a lot of times we have grown up in different cultures with different traditions. Some of us came from religious backgrounds. Others of us did not really have a religious background. It could be more of a scientific or agnostic or atheistic background. Maybe some of us came from more of a philosophical household that weren't so theological, but they were very philosophical. So we have different aspects of the human condition that seem to be to us something that could be helpful for us to remember who we really are and to remember who God is, to remember our Creator, our source. And we could call these different aspects, philosophy and religion. We could talk about science, and we could talk about prayer, which is part of, we'll call it even spirituality. But for most people, the religions of the world, I'll say the formal religions of the world, are pretty synonymous with theologies, that Buddhism has a theology, Hinduism has a theology, and Christianity has a theology. Actually, even A Course in Miracles has a theology. So when you study A Course in Miracles and you study the metaphysics of A Course in Miracles, you're actually studying a theology. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because theologies are like trampolines. They're just meant to spring you into an actual experience. The theologies themselves are part of the projection of the ego, because God is one, truth is one, spirit is one, and that is the actuality of what is. That's what reality is. Reality is one. So when we talk about different theologies, that even A Course in Miracles has a theology. And you must eventually, after you've immersed in it and you've absorbed it, and more than that, you've practiced it, and you've given yourself over to the practice, or what Jesus calls the transfer of training in the workbook, which is the transfer of training, mind training, then Jesus is going to say to you in less than 189 already, he's not even near the end of the workbook, he's going to say, forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. He's not going to say, stick with this theology. He's going to say, you're going to even have to forget the theology of A Course in Miracles to come into a direct experience of God and a direct experience of Christ. So the theologies of the world are just trampolines, and you're meant to spring off of that trampoline and go sailing and soaring toward the light. And that's why I do see Course in Miracles students when I travel around the world. I've been in 44 countries, and sometimes I'll be in a course group and they'll say, I'm glad I finally found the truth. As they're holding the book, they tell me they finally found the truth, and I'm saying, oh no, that's not the truth either. A book is not the truth. The truth cannot be described or explained, only experienced. And it is so joyful and happy, and we'll say supremely happy, beyond this world happy, that's an experience of the light. And believe me, the book is not the light. Sometimes people like to, in a world of theologies and beliefs, they like to be right about something in the world, and so even when they find the Course, they go, I found the truth. But it's not the truth, it's just a springboard. It's just a little practicum. This is like a little practicum that you'll go through. And Jesus even says, this Course is a beginning and not an end. There's Blanca's little daughter, she's holding it up, that's right, she's holding it up, she's showing that it's just a book. And the little child shall lead them. There she is. That's like our poster child. Anytime you get too possessive about the Course and you start to defend it, remember Blanca's little girl holding it up and saying, this isn't the truth. It's just a book, too. So, theologies point us toward the truth. If you've studied psychology, you might have even heard of Abraham Maslow's pyramid, his hierarchy, his pyramid. It starts off with your basic needs at the bottom, and then you work into higher order needs, and then the very top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And that's what the ancient Greeks said, know thyself. That is the point of A Course in Miracles, is know thyself. And there are many pathways in form to reach that self. And one pathway in form is not better than another pathway. We're not even meant to compare or contrast. We're simply asked to take the pathway that's given us as part of our prearranged plan of awakening and apply ourselves. Let's really apply our heart and mind. Let's put our whole heart into the practical application of what is given us as our pathway back to God. Now, many pathways to God include meditation, and prayer is so important that Jesus says prayer is the medium of miracles. So it has to be really important if he's given us A Course in Miracles, and now he tells us inside the book that prayer is the medium of miracles, that we can say that that is going to be absolutely essential in our awakening. And if prayer is desire, that means that we have to learn to focus our desire on that which is beyond this world. We can call it God, you can call it spirit or oneness or love, but you have to focus the mind and focus your desires on the light, on the Christ vision, on the oneness. And that's why the workbook has lessons like, I am determined to see above all else, I am determined to see things differently. He's not talking about seeing with the body's eyes, he's not talking about even the perceptual world. He's saying, you really have to focus your prayer on light. You have to pray for light. You have to desire to see. For some of you who started doing the workbook lessons on January 1st, today is day number 44. What's our lesson today? God is the light in which I see. Well, that's pretty synchronized too with what we're talking about today. God is the light in which I see. And that means that the prayer of our heart must be for spiritual vision. And not only that, he's asking us to prioritize among all the things we may think we want in this world, which can be many. He's saying, I want you to prioritize seeing spiritual vision as your top priority. That's a way of putting God first. And it's not too many lessons, several lessons later, where you have the lesson, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And that's going to be part of our journey to reach God, because he tells us in that workbook lesson that it's possible to listen to the voice for God all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? That means you don't have to necessarily have your eyes closed or open. It's possible to listen to the voice for God all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. So this is giving us permission to pray, and it's giving us permission to listen to the voice inside, and it's giving us permission to be able to follow that voice in all things, even though our body seems to be going through its regular motions and activities. We still can be connected with the Holy Spirit. We still can be reminded of what's important, what's helpful. We still can be given instructions, even as the body is going through its routines during the day. This is great because it's telling us you don't need a special place to reach God. You don't need a special location. You don't need a special circumstance to reach God. You don't need a special situation. God can be reached directly through the power of the mind and through prayer, or through unified desire, we'll say. So it's important to understand the context, because what seems to be the perceptual world is a distorted lens. It's a fragmented world because of the fragmented ego lens in the mind that has projected it. And it's extremely filled with images. I don't know if some of you remember back to, there was the days of the cavemen, and then we had finally agricultural farming came in, and then in world history we've reached the Industrial Revolution, and then with the advent of computers and marketing and technology, we have had an explosion of images. We thought the Industrial Revolution brought on a bunch of images with all the, what do they call those little things where you, mass production, assembly line. We thought, oh my God, assembly line. Instead of making one car, we make hundreds and thousands of cars. Now, with the digital, with the internet and with our devices, we have an explosion of images. And who are you going to call with an explosion of images? No, it's not Ghostbusters. You have to call on the Holy Spirit and Jesus, say, Holy Jesus, there's trillions of images and every day there's more. It's exploding. We're dealing with an information overload and an explosion of multiplying exponentially images. And yes, that's right. Your goal is still to find God and know who you really are. The goal hasn't changed. But the present moment hasn't really changed. With all these images, it hasn't really changed anything of the present moment. The holy instant is unaffected by all of the ego's shenanigans of exploding images. Bigger, better, faster, more, new, improved. No, no, no. The holy instant has nothing to do with any of that. In fact, the Holy Spirit, you don't even advertise the holy instant. It just is what it is, but it's so extremely simple, and it is reached through prayer. It is reached through meditation. There's some things, and even in the different spiritualities of the world, that don't change. Prayer and meditation remain the essential pathway to God. And everything, even the workbook of A Course in Miracles, takes you into prayer and meditation. If you follow the lessons, if you give your heart over to it, if you apply the lessons, you will be taken right into the heart of prayer and right into the heart of meditation, right into the stillness, right into the silence. So that's our theme this week. And then we always put out our movie poll, and we ask you, we have a Spanish poll, we have an English poll, and this week Kenneth combined, to make it easy for me, who has trouble looking at two polls, he combined them into one poll, and the top two vote getters by far were devotion to God above all else and extending love versus projecting error. That makes it really simple for me. Those are my favorite topics. You've picked my favorite topics. Devotion to God above all else and extending love versus projecting error. Those are sweet. Those are sweet. Even my cat likes those. He's devoted, ISO is devoted to those. So we have a movie that we're going to explore those topics today. Now, everybody knows that if you perceive a world of form, there's what we could call a temptation to believe in what you perceive. In fact, that's how it got there. It seemed to come, a perception only came into existence from the belief in the ego. So in heaven, there's no perception, there's no such thing as images and forms, there's no such thing as time, there's no such thing as measurement or comparison or increments. Those are all just inventions. So it's a fictitious world. It's a completely fictitious world of appearances and images. And you can tell where you are in your spiritual practice by how much you pay attention to these fictitious images. If you are addicted to watching the news, well, that's not good news for your spirit, because the spirit's still the spirit, but your awareness of spirit is not going to be very strong to the extent that you're concerned about, I'll call them externals or outcomes. If your mind is focused on stories of the world, then the Holy Spirit and Jesus can still find a way to use those stories to inspire you to go within. The Holy Spirit can still use the symbols of the world just to show you don't want them. And that's important to note, that you don't experience God and continue to have an investment in these images. Some of you remember in the Bible, Jesus said, hold no graven images before the Lord thy God. I think that's one of the commandments, right? Hold no graven images before the Lord thy God. Oh my gosh, we've got an image explosion going here, of an explosion of idols, and Jesus is still, his message is still the same. Hold no graven images before the Lord thy God. I also like the Sermon on the Mount, and I really like Jesus' teachings. And if prayer is that important, and he says prayer is the meaning of miracles, maybe we should go back to 2,000 years ago and see, what did Jesus teach 2,000 years ago about prayer? What did he actually have to say about prayer? And Jesus said, when you pray, go into your closet, close the door, and pray to God the Father in secret. So there's the instructions. Go to your closet. Even back then, 2,000 years ago, they had closets, you see. What are you going to put your clothes, all your stuff? Even back then, they were hoarding stuff. And Jesus said, go to your closet, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. 3 parts. Okay, go to your closet. What did he mean? I'll have to explain this. What did he mean, go to your closet? He meant, go to your inner chamber. If you have an apartment or a condominium or a house, and I said, go to your closet, you're not going to be going out on your front yard or your backyard. And you're not going to go on your roof. You're going to go into where? To one of the inner chambers. All houses and condominiums and apartments have closets. Most of them. I actually had a house I lived in that was built in 1847, and there were no closets in the bedroom. I thought, this was not built for modern times. I used an armoire instead. I made my own closet. But when Jesus says, go to your closet, he is saying, go to your inner chamber. That's important. If he spoke that 2,000 years ago, it must be just as true now. Even though the houses are bigger and there's more closets than ever. Still, if he's telling us, go to your closet, he's saying, go to your inner chamber. Second thing, close the door. Close the door. Go to your closet and close the door. When you close a door, what are you doing? You're shutting off something. You're shutting out something. He was basically telling us, go to your inner chamber, go to your closet and shut the door. Close out all your perceptions of the world. Leave your perceptions of the world behind. Because if you bring those thoughts and those images with you into your inner chamber, prayer's not going to work. That's not the purpose of prayer. The prayer is to go within, toward the silence, toward the light. And that's why you have to go to your closet and close the door. Anybody who's ever meditated, your meditation teacher will say, let go of all the churning, raucous, riotous thoughts and sights and sounds of this world. That's from, I think, the lesson today. Actually, lesson 44. But he basically is saying, leave the world behind. Don't bring it with you. Don't bring it with you. Close the door. And then pray to your Father in secret. Now, what he really means is, you don't have to tell the world about your prayer life, because it's for your mind. It's for your innermost core. It's for the chamber of your heart. You don't have to do a PR tour about your prayer life. Jesus actually, back in the day, 2,000 years ago, would make fun of the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees who would go to the Wailing Wall. We still have the Wailing Wall over there in Israel. And they would paint their faces, and they would rock, and they would do a big show. It's almost like a possum, how they flip over and they play dead. Their feet go into the air. When they're threatened, they flop And it's a big show. Possums put on a pretty good show. Jesus is saying, no, not with prayer, no show. Go to your closet, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. He's saying, it's your heart's desire that we're talking about here. It's in your heart of hearts, what you really want is what he's taking us into. He's not asking you to pray for your family. He's not asking you to pray for your country. This isn't some Marianne Williamson prayer for America. We're talking now, we're going deep here. It goes deeper. It is deeper than world peace. You praying for world peace? Leave the world, Jesus says, outside. Don't you dare bring that world into the inner chamber of your heart. Because if you bring even a desire for world peace, however you conceive that would look, no fighting, no wars, whatever, even that desire, it doesn't belong in the chamber. You close that door. You leave it all behind and come to the Lord thy God with holy, empty hands. And that's what he meant by pray to your Father in secret. He meant, don't make a show of this. Don't make a show. This is not something for show. This is so intimate. It's you and God. When you go into that chamber, it's you and God, and that's all it is. And there's nothing else but you and God. And the Word of God, the capital W Word of God is, I am as God created me. That's why it's so sacred, because when you go into that secret chamber, which is a secret to the world, but it's actually not secret at all, when you get into that intimacy with God, you know the only thing that can ever be known. That's right, you can never really know arithmetic or words or languages or learning. You can never know calculus, you can never know science. You can know God and you can know who you are, and you can know that in the inner chamber of your heart and mind, but you need to leave it all behind. And some of you, like myself, are having, at the time I remember years ago thinking the thought, is this practical? And Jesus is saying, yes, it's the most practical. It's more important to leave this world behind and go to God than it is anything else. Your prayer life, there will be nothing ever more important than your prayer life. Your income doesn't matter. Family doesn't matter. Friends don't matter. Successes of the world, possessions, no. Nada, 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 nada. Jesus is saying, it's that inner chamber where you go and know who you are and know God. That's everything. And nothing else even compares. There is no second to that. So, today we're going to watch a movie of a man who was a Catholic priest. And because that's our first topic, devotion to God above all else. And this man, he was good at this. He's a good example of putting God first. He's a Catholic priest he passed away a few years ago in October of 2018, and he lived to be 95. Some of you who are with me last week, we watched Fatima, know that Lucia, our little Saint Lucia, she lived to be 97, and here's Thomas Keating, who is going to live to be 95. He was a priest, and so he wore the dress of a priest. He wore the uniform, the black, shirt and pants, and sometimes the collar. He was a Catholic priest, but that was just a starting point for him. He came through Catholicism, and he He sought God with his heart. And when he sought God, he became a friend to the Dalai Lama. He became a friend to many different religions. He still wore his Catholic priest outfit, but he had a smile on his face. He had twinkly eyes. He didn't see that God involved competition. There wasn't a competition between religions. Whose religion is the best one? He didn't believe in that. Whose religion is the right one? He didn't believe in that. That's almost like asking whose theology is the right one. Listen, they're trampolines. We shouldn't be comparing trampolines. It's all about love. It's all about peace. It's all about happiness. It's not about getting caught up into who believes the best things. And that's where you start to see he outgrew traditional religion. He grew into a spiritual connection with God in harmony and happiness. He could talk to people that seemed to have different beliefs than him. It didn't matter. He would have a friendly conversation with them. He would have humor. He would have joy. And this is just an example of what happens if you put devotion to God above all else. What that means is you're putting happiness above all else. You're putting joy, peace of mind, harmony above all else. Your relationship with your brothers and sisters is your relationship to God. So the more harmonious you are with everyone that you perceive, or even everyone you think of, that is your reflection of your relationship with God. To know God is to know supreme happiness. To know God is to know a sense of love and inclusiveness, of harmony. That's what knowing God is. It's not a theology. Now, sometimes when I've traveled the world, people will ask that question, what religion are you teaching? And it finally got to the point where I asked Jesus, I said, what's the best definition of religion? If I'm going to go talk around the world and I'm going to encounter people in all these different religions, maybe you should tell me what's the best definition of religion. And Jesus said, religion is inner peace. Oh, I like that. That's a great definition. I smile. That's the best definition I've ever heard. Religion is inner peace. And what's the best definition of spirituality? He said, yeah, same thing, inner peace. That's what spirituality is. Does spirituality have different dimensions? Not really. And neither does religion, because inner peace is a state of mind. It's not a belief system. It's an actual presence. It's an actual state of mind. If you want to be religious in the truest sense, as Jesus would say, just find that presence of inner peace that you are, that everyone is, that transcends this world. And the same with spirituality. Find it. Now, when you define a religion in terms of theology, that's why we have strange contradiction of terms like religious wars. Isn't that a strange combination of words? Religious war? Or sometimes they say it was a holy war. A holy war? Holy Christ! Who invented holy wars? It seems like that's the biggest contradiction ever of two words, holy war. And Jesus is saying, yeah, it's much simpler because it's who you are. It doesn't require your belief to be what it is. It actually requires you to lay aside all ego beliefs and accept the one belief that you share with the Holy Spirit, which is forgiveness. The one all-inclusive belief is forgiveness, and everything else can go. Shut the door. Shut the door on everything else. We're back, he said it 2,000 years ago. We really should be paying attention. It's in the Bible. I think it's in Matthew. Go to your closet, shut the door, and pray to your Heavenly Father in secret. Well, if that ain't a direct instruction on reaching God, then I don't know what is. But you see, it requires our participation. It requires our active willingness to say, yes, you're okay, Lord, I shall. I will. Yes. I say yes to your plan right there. And that must also mean that you are going to shut the door on ambition. Anybody ever have any ambitions? Ambitions, We have to shut the door. We have to shut the door on ambition. They're waving in from all over the place. They like that one. Shut the door on ambition. Because I bet you also had a lot of stress with that ambitious idea, right? Huh? Everybody knows there's a lot of stress with ambition. Yeah. Education, achieving degrees, skills, abilities. And when's enough? You're on like a hamster wheel. You get on the ambition wheel, you start to realize this is stressful, and your feet are going like a little hamster, and you don't even know how to stop. You can't get off of it once you start to become ambitious. Some of you know that was my experience. The first time I was watching the movie Gandhi, and it was pretty far along in the movie where Gandhi, he's traveled around India, and then he goes to South Africa, and he builds an ashram in South Africa, and he's having a nice little walk, a chat with an American journalist. And the American journalist looks at this ashram that Gandhi's building and turns to Gandhi and says, "Mr. Gandhi, you are quite an ambitious fellow." And Gandhi responds, "I hope not." My jaw dropped when Gandhi said, "I hope not." That wasn't a very American answer. That was, actually, it wasn't a very worldly answer. I hope not. You're supposed to think that as a compliment when somebody calls you ambitious. But no, I'm saying now, shut the door on ambition. Give up future ambitions and go into that chamber inside, because the rewards will be immense if you do that. Absolutely immense. It will change your whole outlook on yourself and everyone. It will take you toward the forgiven world if you do that. So Father Thomas Keating is I'll say like a priest who outgrew priesthood. Much like Richard Rohr, he's known as a very famous non-dual priest, which is another way of saying a priest who has outgrown the priesthood. Thomas Merton, another one, a monk who outgrew the monastery. He outgrew the traditions of the Catholic tradition that he was part of. Wherever you start, whatever you believe in, that's just your starting point. Because remember, it doesn't really matter that much what you believe in. There's no point in accentuating differences when they all were generated by the ego anyway. So why get into comparing and contrasting nothing? And besides, Jesus is saying, go to your closet, shut the door, and pray to your Father in secret. We don't even need these false beliefs to do what Jesus just asked us to do. In fact, they'll just be burdens. If we try to bring them inside the closet, it's just going to be heartbreak. They don't belong in this closet. They don't belong in the inner chamber of our mind. And they aren't there. If you actually go in and shut the door, you're going to be happy that you follow Jesus' message, because you're going to meet Jesus in there, in the inner chamber. You'll encounter Jesus, you'll encounter the light, but you won't encounter him if you carry on this false baggage of beliefs of this world. So Father Thomas Keating, he was a good example of a friendly priest who outgrew the priesthood. He was so open-minded. One time they asked him what about young people nowadays that are bombarded by all these images? They don't know what to follow. Maybe they don't like what they've heard about religion. They don't want an authority telling them what to do. They don't want to be stuck in some theology. He said, well, nowadays this is maybe back in the not too long ago, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago, he would say, well, we now have spirituality. And he smiled and he said, young people can go online now and they can take a course in like 12 different pathways to God. And he smiled and he said, then they can decide which one attracts me. Now that's open-minded. He wasn't trying to steer people into Catholicism. He was saying, why don't you take a course in 12 different ones and see if something resonates with you and go with that. And yet, he emphasized contemplative prayer. He emphasized centering prayer. Sometimes people say to me, centering? What does it even mean, centering prayer? Center on your core. Center on your very being. Contemplate God. Contemplate your very being. That's what centering prayer and contemplative prayer is about. Leave the theologies actually at the door. Close the door on theologies. Even Jesus in Lesson 189, he's asking you to close the door on the course. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy, empty hands unto your God. If that's not a close the door statement, I don't know what there is. He's basically saying you have to go beyond the practice. You have to go beyond the theology. You have to come into a direct experience. Nothing will satisfy you but the direct experience of God and who you really are. Everything else will be dissatisfying, and one experience, one state of mind is the point of everything. So we get to watch Father Thomas Keating in action. That's our movie for today. We're going to watch this movie, and I may pause and come in during the movie to give you some commentary, and I think the Spirit may have some things to say too at the end of the movie before we go into the breakout rooms. But today is a very experiential Saturday. This workshop today is an experiential workshop. I mean, we just did, 2 weeks ago, we did Dark City, and I know that rocked a few worlds. Then we came in with Fatima, and now soft, kind, gentle Father Thomas Keating is going to just take his wide arms out of embrace and say, come here, my friend. Friendly, gentle, come inside with me. Come into the prayer of the heart with his friendly little smile and his twinkly eyes. Come inside with me. It's not hard. Come slip inside with me. Just slip gently inside your heart with me. That's what Father Keating is doing for us. And Thomas Merton was doing the same thing, and Richard Rohr, and a lot of these are beautiful priests. If you haven't checked them out on YouTube, check some of these guys out, They're not into trying to change the world. They're not really trying to make the world a better place. They just are holding out a very kind and soft and friendly invitation. Come inside, slip inside your heart. Slip inside the silence. Feel the simplicity. Feel how simple it is. Feel how easy it is to slip inside. Jesus says it is quite possible to reach God. In fact, he says you might say it's the most easy thing in this world is to reach God. So it's natural, he says. It's the most natural thing in this world. In fact, he goes on, I think, to say it's the only natural thing in this world. To slip inside your heart into the stillness. That's where we want to use the word natural. It's the only natural thing in this world to slip inside your inner chamber. You don't have to worry about natural foods or organic foods. You don't have to worry about nature and Lion King and the animal kingdom. You don't have to worry about what's natural in this world. Is that their natural hair color? Is that their natural hair color? Are they really that hair color, or are they dyeing their hair? Jesus is like, please, close the door. Close the door on these things, on natural food, natural hair colors. Close the door on these ego jokes and come inside to the one natural state of mind that there is. The one thing in this world, he says, that is most natural is to know God. So enjoy this movie. If you have not met Father Thomas Keating, you are in for a treat because he's devoted. And I know we've even got a retreat coming up in March on devotion to God. And this is a good example. This movie is a good example of living a devoted life. And how do you know it's a devoted life? You don't have to recount what happened in that life in 95 years. Look into his eyes. Look at his gentle smile. Look at the calmness on his forehead. And that's how you know the state of mind that's underneath it. You know, when you look at this guy, Father Thomas, you're going to know, he's got a prayer life. Definitely, he's got a prayer life. And it seems pretty easy, too. It seems like he's not struggling with his prayer life. It's like as natural as breathing. He's just given his heart over to a contemplative prayer life, and it's so natural for him. So enjoy the movie, and I will pop in and visit you during the movie and after the movie. And take a deep breath. This is not going to be some dark city ride. Enjoy the softness of this movie. Enjoy the softness of this priest, or priest who transcended priesthood. Enjoy it. And I'll be back. Now you know he's soaring beyond priesthood when he said you don't earn it. You don't earn it. It's just a free gift. It's always there. All you have to do is access it. And, there he is sitting in prison talking to Jens. I mean, how many of you have seen prison movies like The Great Escape? I mean, we've got Shawshank Redemption. There's so many prison movies about the main objective of the movie is what? Getting out. Dig a tunnel, get out. And here comes Father Thomas Keating. He says, oh yeah, I can help you escape. Let's relax here and let's center. You see, that's for all of us. That prison scene is for all of us. we don't need to be using our five senses to look for the escape route. We don't need to be so concerned about where we're going to go, what place we'll be. You know, it's really irrelevant to God. Place, time and space and place are really irrelevant. They're just concepts. And it's like the old thing, if you find yourself in a prison, then look down. You've got the key in your hand. And you need merely reach through the bars and turn the key and let yourself out. In terms of prayer, Svava was sharing a Yogananda quote today about its unfulfilled needs, unfulfilled desires that are the prison of mankind, the prison of man, unfulfilled desires. And what centering prayer is simply saying is drop into your mind, drop down beneath those false desires, those false beliefs, those false thoughts. It's got to be the easiest thing and the most natural thing in the world to drop beneath beliefs in an illusory prison. As Morpheus told Neo in the Matrix, a prison for your mind. Morpheus didn't say a prison for your body. It's like a splinter driving you mad. That's what the Matrix is. It's a prison for your mind. That's huge. Once we realize there aren't external prisons, it's the mind that believes in the ego, that believes in linear time and space, that's the prison. And it's escaped not by a body digging a tunnel from a cell, not by a body finding a way outside the walls and the bars, but by dropping your awareness down into the light of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within, Jesus told us 2,000 years ago. It's within. You are not going to find it with the five senses. It's a mad game to keep chasing after happiness through the five senses. In one sense, that I was sharing about Matthew 6:6, like Thomas Keating did, and it's like basically, find your inner chamber, find your closet, close the door on your five senses and everything they report, close the door on the five senses, and then go inside in secret to pray to your heavenly Father. Pray to God, and God will reach you. And the peace and the light will shine upon you in that inner chamber. So I think it was valuable even seeing some of his earlier life, because like a lot of people, Thomas Merton kind of he was living a life in the fast lane in France before he came to the United States, joined the Franciscans, shared all his private thoughts with the Franciscans. They were horrified. They threw him out. He went and became a Trappist. The Trappist welcomed Thomas Merton. And here Father Keating, the same thing. He's taken in by the Trappist. Maybe there's something, a message in that. I don't think these Trappists are really trapping anything. I think they're more freeing. They should call them the freedom bringers instead of the Trappist. Maybe that just kept off the ones who didn't have a vocation. I'm not going to be a Trappist. I'm going to find my freedom of the body, but Jesus knows there is no freedom of the body. Jesus teaches that in the Course. What do you want? Freedom of the body or freedom of the mind, for both you cannot have, he says. And so when we go for freedom of the mind, which is dropping in this deep prayer, deep inside of us, that is the escape, truly the escape from the prison of the ego. It's through prayer, it's through stillness, it's through contemplation. That's why in the middle of his text, Jesus even has a section called, I need do nothing. And if there was such a section back when Thomas Keating was young and he read that to his lawyer father, his father would have went, oh heavens, what have I wasted all this money on? All this education, all this effort. And now you're telling me you want to be a monk. Renounce the world. But that's what the I need do nothing section of the Course is. It's where you make a quiet place in your mind, a quiet place where you don't let the activity of the world enter in. He's describing in that section closing the door and going to the inner chamber. It's right there in the middle of the text. I need do nothing. It's coming at us all different directions. It's coming at us through this movie. Yeah. And when he had this deep experience, and he said, oh, I knew telling my parents it would be a great disappointment for them. But it's only the ego that's disappointed by the spiritual journey. Your mind is not disappointed because your mind is waking up to its divine nature. That's not disappointing at all. But the ego is disappointed by the spiritual journey. The ego is like, wait a minute, you're throwing away your career. But who invented the career? The ego. Oh, now you're going to throw away your parents and your family. But who invented those parents and family? The ego. The ego. You're disappointed at throwing away your worldly life, but who invented that worldly life? It wasn't God. It was the ego. And so there's a humbling point where it's a workbook lesson in A Course in Miracles that says, I have invented the world I see, where you have to, for a moment, pause and go, wow, I did this to myself, and now I would undo this. So what if I made it up? Now it's time to let it go. Around 1990, I traveled to the Catskill Mountains to spend some time with Ken Wapnick and Gloria Wapnick. And there was a lot of very intelligent people there, PhDs and doctorate philosophy and all this and this. But I met a woman who didn't even graduate from high school, and she was the happiest of the whole bunch. I went to the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, and guess who the happiest person was? The gardener. The gardener was happier than the teachers. So I got to know the gardener, Dorothy. And one of the things that Dorothy would say with her big, sparkly eyes, when people would go on and on about their traumas and their difficulties and their challenges in life, she would get the biggest smile on her face and the big sparkly eyes, and she would say, so what? Now what? There's some wisdom there. That's from the gardener. That's from the gardener at Foundation for A Course in Miracles. So what? Now what? And that's the same tone of voice she had. So what? Now what? How about right now? Who cares about the past? What about now? What about dropping into prayer now? What about dropping everything right now? What about letting it all go right now? This is our point of power, right now. Not in the future. That's a trick. Right now. So let's get back to Father Thomas Keating. You can see he's starting to sparkle more. He had some challenges and difficulties trying to have a religious life and balance the Church, the Vatican II, the changes of the Catholic Church, pleasing the Pope, pleasing Monsignors, trying to live an austere life. What a struggle. That sounds like the whole human condition. He's doing it for all of us. We've all gone through that now. And now you start to see his smile gets broader, his eyes start to twinkle more. He's having the Dalai Lama over at his monastery. He's having transpersonal psychologists drop by. Kenneth Wilber. He's got people from Buddhism and different traditions coming by. He's got some of his monks have just learned transcendental meditation. There's 10 characteristics in the Course in Miracles in the Manual for Teachers for a teacher of God. And does anybody remember what the final one is, the 10th characteristic of a teacher of God? Some of you know it starts with trust and honesty, but what's the last one? Open-mindedness. Oh, wow. Isn't that beautiful? Hugging the Dalai Lama, welcoming transpersonal psychologists, welcoming poets and authors, not thinking that one person knows the way and the others don't, or one theology is the best way and better than the rest. But his arms are opening up now. He's welcoming dialogue. He's not even stuck in a monastery. You see, he goes into the prison to join with this guy Jens, who thought he was going to be executed, and then he got into centering prayer, and he found the escape hatch inside, the innocence, the happiness inside that is not bound at all by prison walls or by this world. Precious. That's precious. You can just feel your heart getting happier and happier because it's like there's just like this filter in your mind, a thin filter that is the ego. It's like a thin veil. And as you just pray, as you're just willing, it's like you're taking out the wipes and every day you're just wiping that filter, polishing it, clearing it a little bit more every single day, every single moment. And then the world starts to look brighter and everything around you starts to look brighter and still brighter. And some scientists have called this the holographic universe. Well, with a hologram, the definition is the whole is within each part. So if you think about that in terms of human beings, that the whole is right there in the part. And it's actually possible to experience connection with our source by just seeing that whole in your child, in your parent, in your neighbor, in a friend, in a partner. The whole of forgiveness, of that happy dream, is right there. It's so close. It's not transcended in far, far away, but it's actually right there for us. It's like even right before our nose. It's so close. And that is how wondrous it is. That's what the miracle shows us. That's why we practice the Course in Miracles. So we can have that wondrous, happy experience with whatever is right in front of us. That we don't have to have thoughts about getting away as if escape was getting away. No, escape is the silence. Escape is seeing the whole with what's right in front of us. So close, so very close. And also just allowing yourself to get happier and happier as you keep cleaning the filter of your mind every day. You can be happy. You can have a happy song going in your mind as you're wiping and cleaning the filter in your mind. Washing away a little more of that darkness. Just polishing that filter, polishing. Knowing that you're advancing to a beautiful state of mind that has no judgment, that only sees the whole, that is able to see God in everything because God is in our mind. To able to feel the happiness of God because it radiates from us and through us. We bring the light. We're not searching in the world for the light. We are the bringers. We bring the light with us. We shine the light. In A Course in Miracles, Jesus says, to heal is to make happy. Make someone happy. Make someone so happy. Just go forth with a happy song in your heart and then let it sing through you. Let it smile through you. Let it laugh through you. Let it hug through you. It's actually most natural to have the light pouring through us because we are light. And we know ourselves as light when we let it extend through us with everyone and everything. And how sweet. There are no goodbyes in the letting go. All those things we saw in Thomas's life, he kept having to let go and let go and let go. And then even after being like an abbot for whatever, 15 years or something, an abbot is like, in an institutional sense, I'll say, an abbot is like a spiritual leader. An abbot is like a spiritual confidant. It's the monks turn to the abbot for leadership and to be guided. But those are just symbols. And then when he started having that dream where he was trying to put up wallpaper and the wallpaper wouldn't stay stuck to the wall. What a happy way of the Holy Spirit saying, just let the paper fall. Let the monastery fall away. Let the old abbot title fall away. And then off he goes, invited by friends to stay out at their house in Snowmass and look at the flying eagles go by, traveling around the world, meeting with some of his contemporary friends, doing interviews, writing books. It's just showing us that there really aren't endings in this world. The world comes to an end when you clean that inner filter so clean that before you know it, that the ego has been wiped away and you're just happy and there is no beginnings or endings in that clean filter. You just start to see it all was simultaneous. Like when he looked up into the trees that time when he was having that happy, loving experience, and he looked into the trees and he saw a flash of all of these people that had been in his life. Just flashed, his whole life kind of in the world flashed before him in the trees. And he felt that everything was perfect. He felt everything was in perfect order, divine order. And the happy surprise of forgiveness, kind of going a little begrudgingly to try to raise money to keep a monastery from closing, and told, go back to New York and or go to the East and go see if your dad will give some money, Here's this guy, he's been through all these things, and now it's go back and ask your dad for money. And yet, that was such a humbling thing for him, because his dad donated 10,000. Then he said, I think I need to see some other people. His dad pointed him to some other people. He comes back to his dad. I don't think that was enough. And his dad gives him another 10,000, and it saves the Abbey. But it wasn't about saving the Abbey. It was about going into the inner chamber and not having a grievance against his father, his biological father. That's what that was all about. It had nothing to do with an abbey or nothing to do with saving an abbey. That was just the backdrop that Jesus used him for, so he could forgive his father, so he could feel this warm-hearted love that he felt for so many toward his father too, and be grateful for the part that his father played in the whole scheme. That see the perfection in everything that happened, even his father's and his mother turning away from him. That was all part of a scripted plan that was meant to happen just for happiness, only for happiness. Everything is only for happiness. There is no purpose other than for happiness. And what a beautiful example of that. So instead of having thoughts about the future of how you want the future to go or how you hope your life turns out in form, it's better to go into the inner chamber and just say, I don't know. I mean, there he was, maybe in his 80s or 90s, walking around there, probably in his 80s, saying, I don't really think I know anything. With a sparkle in his eyes and a smile on his face, he's walking around in his 80s saying, I don't really think I know anything. And you can tell why he was happy. Because the less you know about this world, the happier you are. And the more that you think or believe you know about this world, you bring on heartache. You cannot understand anything while you still believe you know something about this world. And it helps us to have figures like Thomas Keating, Father Thomas Keating, to kind of show the way as kind of like again, a symbol, like a way shower. Jesus was a way shower. Father Thomas Keating here, he's our way shower of the day. He's our flavor of the Saturday. We're in a Thomas flavor today. But he had the sparkly eyes because he was open. He was open-hearted, open-minded. Another amazing movie for us to watch our minds with and pray with and really feel and ask the Spirit, what is it that you want to show me through this movie that pertains to my mind and my spiritual journey, my inward journey. So it was a movie on the brief side, so we actually have a very nice opening here for questions, You can share your miracles. If you have questions about how something applies in your experience, or maybe you're on the cusp of something that you start to feel something wants to come through to you, and we can maybe join together and clarify what that is just through the process of bringing it up and talking about it, that would be amazing for all of us. So we'll just see. Pete, you can see if there's any hands here. Just put up your digital hands and we can have some nice interactions here and dive into this together. So thank you.
Sure. Maybe we could just start with Mexico co-living. So you guys can unmute there.
Hola, David.
Hola.
Ay, he abierto esta mañana el libro por lo... Me cuesta hablar. He abierto el libro porque siempre me asigno ahora un ejercicio diario de que Jesús me quiera dar para mí. Y he abierto el libro por el ejercicio 80.
The book in the exercise number 80. Let me recognize that all my problems have been solved. And the movie really impacted me. A huge impact. As always, it's only confirmations. Like I always tell you, David, it's this silence that I'm so longing for in my mind. It's closing that door. It's amazing because that's what I feel, to really wanting to close the door and not listen that noise of the world. That what seems to be problems everywhere, but really there are no problems. Last night I had a dream, and this morning I was telling Micah, wow, last night I had this dream with my father, with whom I couldn't say goodbye to. They ran over him and we didn't speak for a long time, and then he died, and I never spoke with him. I could never say goodbye to him or talk to him and express to him the love that I really felt for him and all his life of suffering that he went through. And last night I had a dream with him. I had a dream with my father, and when I woke up I couldn't remember the dream. And then when I was talking with Micah, I was like, wow, I can't remember what it was, but I dreamt with my dad, and I want to remember what it was because I spoke with him and I can't remember anything. And I'm just asking Jesus to please show me what did I talk with my father. And when I was watching the movie, I started feeling like an opening in my heart, a very big opening. I felt so identified with him, with trying to find that silence and knowing that my conversation with God is in the silence. And it's a confirmation, such a big confirmation that everything that's happening for me in La Casa is perfect. It's perfect for me. I don't have to feel bad because I want to withdraw and I want to really go within. Because I really am listening Jesus, everything that he's telling me and all the distractions around me. So I was sitting there, and for some moments I could hear the conversation with my father, the whole conversation. I was being able to hear it. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful because it wasn't really with my father. It wasn't with him. But I felt such a huge love, David. was something so divine. It was such a huge gift. And it was like seeing how all the symbols that are being shown to me outside of me. Like yesterday, when I was sharing with Micah in the temple, it was such a beautiful experience. There was a moment that I saw him and I couldn't see Micah. I could only see like this feeling, how he was feeling, and sharing that space with him and feel so much love in what we were doing. I was just looking at him. And he was practicing his lesson. He sat down for a moment because we have our reminders on our phone. And he just stepped back and I was just looking at him. And I could see so much light in him. And I saw him crying and I said, wow, thank you so much, Jesus, for these beautiful symbols. Just to be with you, talking with you, sharing with you, that love. Afterwards at night at La Casa, there was a situation that it seemed that there was a problem, but being able to see it now and see, no, there's not a problem. Nothing is happening, really. Nothing is happening with anyone. I was expressing with the group in Spanish because we went out to speak and each one was talking and I was just like, wow. I could hear them speaking and I could see, wow, where's the problem? There's no problem, really.
Ese cerrar la puerta para mí.
It's closing that door. With the group that we have right now online, with a lot of people from all around the world and the retreats that we have with you guys. One time Xavi sent a picture of how Jesus was behind the door waiting for us. And when you started explaining about the door, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, that what you were saying. It was incredible. There's been, the past few days I've had so big symbols of love, David. How the ego tries to interpret what's happening outside, like there are problems outside, but really there are no problems. And the only thing I want to maintain is keeping that, yes, I do want. Like when David, when you invited me to come and I said, yes, I do want to come. But that's the only thing I want. It's the only thing I want, to feel his love all the time, and I feel like each time there's more and more. It's looking there and watching all this love and being able to feel that conversation with my Father last night, that gift that Jesus showed me, that conversation again, what's happening between him and I, really, I think there's no more, not a greater gift than that until now. It's incredible. It's incredible, David. It really is. It's like this movie, it's me. This movie, it's me. It's a reflection of me and all this time. That commitment that I want for the truth, that commitment I want for love, that commitment to follow Jesus and be faithful. And all the gifts that he's given me. And when you really surrender and when you say, yes, I do want this, all those gifts are so beautiful. It's amazing. Thank you for showing this movie, David. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful for everything. You already know this, for everything. I love you.
Beautiful.
Hermoso.
Beautiful. That's the highest experience we could ever want for co-living. That can be our new logo. Co-living. Go to your closet, close the door, and pray in secret to God. That could be our new slogan. Because it's all joy in the heart, and there's no problems inside. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I will just remind everyone that you are being translated, so please just go a little bit slow for our translators and just stay to the heart of what you want to share so we can hear from everybody. Okay, next we can go to Shadi and Corinne. You can unmute there.
Are you talking? Yes. Hello, David. Hello,
Hi.
Peter. Hello, everyone. I am so glad to have this experience with all of you. It's been wonderful. I love you, David. You're just incredible, and I so enjoy this. Your name even means so much to me. I'm writing a musical about King David, so you said last time, you said that your name was picked because of King David. I was like, yes, okay. My whole question comes around, I so enjoyed this movie, and the main thing for me was his devotion and the time that he dedicated into his, what did he call it, contemplative outreach. Yes. And this is Corinne, my friend. So whether it's meditation, going into your closet, song of prayer, I believe that meditation or contemplation or whatever that we want to name it, I thought that this was a huge part of his own getting into his deep spiritual progress and growth. And I heard you and Francis last time talking about no meditation, and how Francis heard the voice in her head that says, this is not for you. And the first thing that came to my mind, I didn't think of it as the devil is trying to get her out, but I did think that, okay, it's your ego. Your ego doesn't want to die. Your ego is going to tell you to get out of that contemplation, because that is how let's say, I am having trouble meditating right now myself, because I was telling Corinne, I feel this as soon as I meditate right now, there's this jolt of energy, I call it, and light, and my eyes roll back and I freak out and I come out of it. So it's with a lot of prayer, I'm still trying to stay in it, because it's showing me something that I don't see here in this world. And I believe that is supposed to be my journey to go the next step. And the question is, I know the Course says, you mentioned that the Course doesn't tell you to go meditate, that the Course tells you do the lessons. And then it says it's a complete course. But then again, at the end of the whole thing, it tells you that this is just the beginning. So the next stages, I believe it's the practice of the Course, right? So if it's the practice of the Course, I've done the Course deeply. So I've stayed with every lesson, as I was explaining to Corinne, on my knees. I'm crying. I'm going through so many forgiveness lessons. And then you do get into a point that forgiveness becomes such a habit, and it happens faster. If I want to make sure I'm forgiving, I turn on the news and I can forgive for 5 hours, then close it again. Forgiveness takes me to this level of definitely being in peace and happiness in this world, yes. But then as far as my spiritual growth goes and connection to God and feeling the love that he was talking about when he's walking into this beautiful nature, which I do experience as well, I feel that part of meditation is needed to take you to the next phase. And I just need some more clarity. If the Course says don't meditate, or is the song of prayer or going in the closet, is that meditation, or is that something completely different?
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, we could say that what this movie was showing us and what the Course is pointing to is that it's saying you can start to cease to think of things in terms of activities. For many people, when they say, I'm going into my room to meditate, it's described as an activity. or I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes, or I'm going to meditate for 60 minutes. So it's clearly described as an activity. The same in Christianity when people say, let's say a prayer before we eat. They don't say, let's say a prayer all during our dinner. They say, let's say a prayer before we break bread and before we start. So for untrained mind, we'll call it, prayer and meditation are both seen on the timeline. They're seen as activities. Oh, I'm going to take a jog, and I'm going to take a shower, and then I'm going to meditate. Jogging activity, shower activity, meditate activity. Now, what this movie is pointing towards is towards that merge where there ceases to be a subject and an object. Like there ceases to be a personality subject and an objective world of other people and environment object. But there's a merge that occurs in deep prayer and deep meditation where everything comes together and it's very vast and it's just one experience. Now with Father Thomas Keating, we could see that he was sneaking off to go to Mass and not telling his parents, even as a little 5-year-old. Imagine sneaking out the door earlier as a child and running off to go to Mass, not telling mom and dad. And then by the time he's 21, he's going into a monastery. So he's starting at 21 at a monastery. And most of the next, we'll say, over 50 years, the next 5 decades after that initial going to the monastery, is Jesus is using institutional symbols of monasteries. And he's a priest, he's a monk, he's an abbot. And then finally, when he's, we'll say, in his maybe 80s, late in his life, he gets popped out of the abbot role. He's popped out of the monastery. And so he's showing us a whole synopsis of how that for him contemplative prayer was very important, but it grew, as his life went on, it became more and more important. But still, Jesus was using all the symbols, all these relationships, all in the convents with all the monks and the other priests. And when he was the abbot, there's a lot of relationships. And then when Vatican II came and it went from austerity, and he was like a hard-nosed monk. And then everything popped, and then half the monastery went soft and liberal, and the other half went hardline austerity. And that popped him out of the whole thing. You know, he was popped. So this is showing how important guidance is, and how important Jesus says that the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is far beyond what can be taught. It does aim at removing the obstacles, and Jesus says, I'll use the relationships. I'll use everything you believe in. You believe in interpersonal relationships? I'll use them to pop you out of this dark filter you're looking through. I'll use the relationships. I'll use the situations. Institutional roles. I'll use all the roles to loosen you until you just pop out of there and get really happy, which it looks like he did. When he popped out of the abbot role, he took off in terms of happiness. Now, what you were describing with what Francis and I were talking about is that in that section of I Need Do Nothing, Jesus is saying that basically the most important thing for us and for the whole universe is to save time. What does that mean? He's trying to bring the alpha and the omega together. The alpha is the illusory beginning, and the omega is the illusory end. And he's trying to bring it into an I am experience that literally he says, I am the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. He's saying, I'm the whole thing. I'm who you are. I'm the Christ self and you're the same one. And the way that we're going to get there is through holy relationships. So in the Course, he talks about contemplation, he talks about long periods of meditation, he even mentions fighting against sin in that section. He says, your way will be different, not in purpose, but your way is a way of saving time. And we can see from this movie that there was a lot of use of relationships. Along with the prayer and contemplation and silence, it was mainly use of relationships to learn not to judge, including his father. He had that beautiful healing with his father when his father donated $20,000 unexpectedly to save a monastery. He really popped with that one because he had an unconscious grievance still that maybe he was more spiritual or his father still doesn't get it, and that really popped him. So that was a good example of what he talked about towards the end of the movie, where he mentioned the individual subconscious, the individual unconscious, and the collective unconscious. Really, there's just one unconscious. But that's the hidden part of the mind that is where it generates our entire dream. So everything we perceive in the world is getting generated from the unconscious mind. And it's what Jesus calls the secret dream. The dream you dream in secret is unconscious. And then the world that you perceive is the dream that you gave away, as if it's happening to you. Like, look what happened to me today. I didn't do it. He shouted at me over there, and she chased me down the road, and oh my God, what a day. And Jesus is like, yeah, that's your unconscious mind getting acted out. You still believe things that are not in your awareness. So they're just getting acted out so you can forgive what's down there in the dark unconscious mind. So I feel like in a natural way, if you focus on the desire to be still, then you will, to the capacity and to the readiness that you're able, you will go into that chamber and you will close the door for periods of time when you really feel it, and you'll go in there and it will be hugely impactful. The silence, that is the point, to go into the holy instant. That's the whole point, to go into the light. But also you can have gratitude for everything that you seem to be experiencing in the world, because it's just showing you a motion picture of the mind, including the unconscious aspects that have been pushed out of awareness. It's showing you the whole thing. That's why Jesus says you always should have gratitude for the loving thoughts and for the calls for love, because both are capable of bringing love into your awareness if they're perceived correctly. So it's highly individualized, but I think that part that Frances was talking about, where she started to go off into like Vipassana and go off into meditation as a path. And Jesus was just saying, I have something for you. And it was a lot. She ended up making a movie where she divorced her husband, she let go of 2 houses, she let go of her business that she owned. She thought that she would eventually earn enough money that when she was older, she would have a nice nest egg and she would get to travel the world. All she did was say yes to Jesus. And that world travel came flying into her so fast she didn't have to wait decades for it. It came immediately, but it was part of a teaching function too, where she was to teach. She did some translating for me in Mandarin over in China. It's like been all over the world, but there was a function that Jesus had, a mission that he had for her, that it took a surrender. And it wasn't necessarily to be just meditating 6 to 8 hours a day. There was quite an active component with the body. And Jesus says, you got to trust me. It's to save time for everybody. You know, that he's just saying, please give yourself over to me, and I will use you in the way that's most helpful for the whole universe. And it's also the fast track. It's a way of actually saving time. So it starts to break us out of this idea of talking as if they're kind of separate things. I mean, people ask me if I meditate, and I said, I feel like I'm meditating all the time. And they say, do you ever pray? And one time I was in Salt Lake City, and I was at Temple Square, and there was Mormon missionaries all over the place. And there were swarms of men and women missionaries, like hundreds of them around. So I was with a group, and we were walking around, and finally these two female missionaries came, and the one, she like had a fire in her eyes. She was so in the Lord. And I was with a group of like 7 or 8 people, and she came over to us, and she looked at us, and she pointed at us. She looked at the whole group of us, and she pointed. And she looked, and then she said, will you pray with me? She looked around in everybody's eyes, and will you pray with me? And one of them said, what are we talking about here? And then she went to the next one, will you pray with me? And then she finally came around the group, and she came to me, and she went, will you pray with me? She looked me right in the eyes. And I said, I pray without ceasing. She went, oh, that's so beautiful. I guess I got the right answer. But that is ultimately, the merge occurs when we realize we're always praying. It's not a question of to pray or not to pray. It's not a question of meditate or not meditate. It's actually, what am I praying for? What is the purpose of my prayer? That's the question. And what is the purpose of my meditation? Because meditation is just a powerful mind, and that's the same with prayer. But the real question is, what are you using your power of prayer for? If that's your altar, it's like the question is, what do you have on the altar? It's not an activity that starts and stops. It's really a question of, what do I value? What do I put on my altar of prayer? That's the question. And you can see that's a very different question than segmenting prayer or meditation as if it's an activity, because the ego just sees everything as activities. Oh yeah, I'm gonna pray an hour and a half today, and I'm gonna go jogging. I have to cook meals. I've got to do that. You know, you see how it breaks the day up into all these different activities, and ultimately, true prayer is saying, come inside here, and all that's going to merge together. You're going to forget the categories if you come into this inner chamber. You're not going to even remember what these categories mean if you come toward that light inside. So I hope that helps. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you so much for that. My main question is that cutting out the 5 senses so cutting out the doing, cutting out even the intention sometimes, and just sitting, because if I'm waking up and I've forgiven the world, there's no one else that I would need to forgive unless I create more things, and it becomes more natural. It has become more natural to me that it comes almost immediately. Something happens or somebody says something and it's already forgiven. So I don't need to sit with it. I don't need to process it. It just forgives. And then also every day that I wake up, everything that I do and think, I give it to the Holy Spirit. So there's really not that much to do than to connect and to cut off the senses and be with God. And I feel that there is such a big, I don't want to wash over it, because I do believe that the Course has catapulted me I said that last time too, from where I was a student of Taoism to the student of course, it has definitely catapulted me. For what I saw in the movie, he did a lot of contemplation and prayer and meditation, and then he got into forgiveness. With the course, we are doing the forgiveness first. So once you forgive a lot, the brain is just calmed down and it's in a happy, peaceful place. But then what do you do after that? Ken Webnick was talking about the beginning. You find the ladder, and this is the beginning of the ladder. But I haven't found exactly what are the steps of the ladder to go up. So it says that the course takes you to the right ladder to dismantle the ego. So once you are on your way to do that, I don't say that my ego is dismantled completely, but what are the practices that would take me to that? Is it meditation, or is it just doing the courses over and over again, those lessons over and over again, even though I think that I've learned what I need to learn? Is the next step meditation? Is the next step my relationship with the source, with God, or is it something else that I need to be doing?
Well, it's good. You have already identified that the block is the identification with a doer, because spirit is. Like Father Keating was saying, it's just isness. It just is. It's reality. It's not judging us or saying we did good and bad and this and that. It's what is. It's reality. So the way that you undo the doer is you're done through. What does that mean? Well, if the body's like a puppet, and you're not the puppet, but there is a purpose that can move the marionette, we'll say. It can speak through the puppet. It can smile through the puppet and laugh and hug and do maybe write King David plays or do whatever it's going to do through the puppet. That's the inspiration that takes you into the inner chamber that is beyond the doer, where the doer disappears. That's where you're taken into the I am presence. But when you're identified with the doer, the ego says, what am I going to do? You see how that's all it knows. It's like, okay, here I am, I'm a doer now. What am I going to do? And Jesus is saying, actually the purpose for the puppet is where the importance is. It's not what the puppet does or doesn't do, but it's who's pulling the strings. Who's pulling the marionette strings of the puppet? Now that's important, but that's in the mind. And you see how the ego doesn't know what that is, so it's like, well, you want me to sit and put my hands like this and do meditation? Do you want me to write a play? Do you want me to get in a relationship? Do you want me to talk to somebody? It's very much the ego only knows doing. It doesn't know anything beyond the body, because now it's made the body its home. It's identified completely with the body. It knows nothing of the spirit. It's totally identified with the body. So, for example, in the parable of David, the Course in Miracles came in 1986, and then the next few years, revelatory experiences and all kinds of fireworks, mental fireworks going off in the first few years there. And then after about 5 years then of fireworks, of all kinds of things falling away and getting burned up inside and everything like this, then around 1990, 1991, I was given more of a teaching function to travel and share the Course. Starting around 1991 is when I really hit the road. I was gone, really far gone. By that time, it wasn't a trip anymore. I was on a trip, all right, but it didn't have an end to it. I was on a long road trip with Jesus, and that was Jesus using the body to speak, and it was the Spirit using it to come through the body, done through. So instead of being the doer, it's you get into service, you get into purpose, You get into your life's calling. Like Mother Teresa on a train one day. She's just riding on a train in India, and all of a sudden, doing, oh my gosh, I've got a calling. And then that went on for many decades. So that's the being done through is actually the Course's way of saying, just follow the guidance. Just listen and follow. That's it. And you'll be taken into deeper states of prayer and meditation as you are willing to just listen and follow and be done through. But as you're done through, you become less identified with the character. You don't feel like a man or a woman. You don't feel like a human being. At times it gets very mystical, where you just get into a merge. You light episodes, all kinds of things happen that are part of the convincing that you're way beyond the doer. You're way beyond the body. And all you do is go with that. You just follow that intuitive guidance. You've done the Course already, and then Jesus told you, this Course is a beginning, not an end. And from here on, I want you to just follow the voice of the Holy Spirit, who will direct all subsequent learning. And there you go. You're off. It's like a horse race. The gate is open. You're out of the gate. You're ready to just go and be done through, just to be used. And that's all you have to know, that's it right there. Look at Father Thomas Keating, he was done through for quite a lot of years until finally he got the prompt, let go of the abbot role and let go of the monastery. I don't know if he ever thought he'd hear that one, but he went a lot happier after he went through that one too, and that's the way it goes. It just keeps getting lighter and lighter. So thank you for sharing all that you did. It's beautiful. Happy.
Thanks, Shadi. Okay, next, let's go to Marga. You can unmute there.
Thank you. Hi, David.
Hi, Marga.
Hi. I pushed the button before thinking because I want to speak up. You had a beautiful talk first with Ken on Thursday about the desire, and I think that started something because at the poll I checked that one, devotion to God and nothing else. That is such a deep longing. And as the movie was running, I think after 10 minutes, it was so intense. It's only crying and crying the whole thing on, and I don't know what's happening. And I can now hear some things like allow yourself to be loved by God. And you mentioned at the end like the cleaning of the filter, and I think there's something happening here. I have no idea what's going on, but it's so deep. And I just don't know. I'm willing to be shown. I know there is that deep longing, and to be in that constant prayer. And working with the translations helps very much. So I'm working on it. But I'm so grateful for this movie. So thank you.
It's perfect. It's the perfect thing. Yeah. I like that idea that God knows the prayer of our heart before we speak a word, and that you, just by showing up on that Get Real Zoom, it's like you felt like your heart was opening and you were kind of in the tractor beam, like the beams got me. And then you come here and then the tears come, and even just watching the movie and crying and letting whatever move through is actually part of the filter getting cleaned. And it's so beautiful because you're so willing for that. That's the prayer of your heart. So it's really kind of like that, give yourself to love. And that's what you're doing. You're giving yourself over to love. You're saying, have your way with me. Do what you need to do with me for me to heal and to be purified. And basically that's a prayer of like, take me up. It's kind of a version of beam me up, Scotty. This is take me up, God. Take me in your love. So thank you. I know it's very intense, but I know this is very helpful for you, and it's really the answer to your prayer. Thank you, Marga.
Thank you, Marga. Let's go to Esther next. You can unmute there.
Thank you so much. After that desire section with Ken and you, I really focused on that prayer to experience the love of God. And the next day, I experienced such happiness, and I came to a realization that my mother is so happy, and that if she were to pass, I would just remember that happiness, and I felt complete. And also, the day before, I think it was Thursday, one of the days, I experienced again the fear that Alan's going to die in a terrible car accident, and that I would lose the one I love. And he and I talked for hours about the you that was thinking these things, and that if I looked for that you, I couldn't find it. And the one listening to that you can't find that either. And the lightness came. And then with the prayer of you talking about desire of your heart, I just desired to experience the love of God above anything else. And I experienced such a love for him after that prayer. I never experienced anything like that. So deep. And then on a different note, like there are other desires that are coming to awareness, like ambition coming in about making lots of money. And I realized that again, that those are just thoughts, because the true desire is the one for the love of God. And I just have to, like you said, be done through, and because like Bitcoin is doing really well, and there are fears about getting involved with it and not knowing when to get involved, because there's this astrologer saying that certain time you should stay away until after March or whatever. And we're just trying to follow that and see if it's really true. And I just want, like you said, I just want to experience being done through and have that above all else, and not think that my prayer is anything but that. And if you have any, and then I did watch Bliss with Alan yesterday, and he couldn't sit through the whole thing, so he left. But so much about my past came up. And I talked to Kariku in Japan that night, and she reminded me of what Alan and I say to each other about the you that's not there. And I did see also that those thoughts were healing to have them, but healing for whom? Because the one that needs the healing is an identity. And I really saw that. And then the peace started to come, but I still needed to express a little bit. So, what is the purpose of the past coming up as associations in the healing? Because at some point I thought maybe I need to write down all the stories because they're so bizarre. But I'm just waiting. Because like my father, I had a godfather and he passed away a horrible death, but I had the experience of him coming back in the body and living life with me again, and then passing away that horrible death. And I had done focusing that I had learned from another school. What did God want for me? And that was all I focused on. And then he died. And I felt so much guilt. But then I didn't know that the one feeling the guilt wasn't there. And I lost my mind. And then my father died. And I couldn't sleep. I was vibrating. I was at the Rumpel school when he died. I knew he was going to die that day, that next day. And it took me, seems like they're still processing about these people. And I wanted to know to what extent do I let those thoughts, just arise and see them for who they're arising for? Because then I'm happy. There's no question. I see that that's not there. So any feedback would be really great, David. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Yeah, I had the thought that when I showed this movie today, the Bliss movie would come up, and I saw that on Facebook that you and Alan had watched that, and then he had left. But there's a scene when they are in this very happy place, and then the scene of his daughter coming back is kind of like a presence, and it sounds like that's what you're going through with these various characters in your life, in your dreamscape. But it's really an opportunity of thoroughly letting go of the past, because when we go towards something, or we feel we have to do something, or correct something, or interact in some kind of way, significant way, it's just an opportunity. The past just will keep rearing up in the dream, and as long as we bite the bait, as long as we believe in the reality of it, then we seem to go more on another loop around, another delay maneuver. So that is a very impactful movie. I might end up showing all or part of it as part of one of these events, because when I saw it, I was amazed. Svava was amazed. It was like, oh my gosh, what a teaching device that movie is. They're just loading up now. The Spirit's just bringing them on to us. But it is an opportunity to just step back and again be guided, just like with the Bitcoin, and just like with your mother and Alan. You're getting daily opportunities to connect with Spirit and to really align and tune in a very humble way. So the connection is the most important thing. Then from that connection, if there's anything you're supposed to say or do, you will be given the instructions. So it's really quite simple when you see it as just, I will step back and let him lead the way. I will stay connected. I will stay aligned. I won't try to figure it out, because it's not my part to try to figure it out. It's my part to listen and follow and stay connected. stay in alignment. And that's really what you're practicing now, is trying to stay with consistent alignment. That's the discipline you're in right now. So as you do that, you'll be very happy as you really put your effort and your attention into that. And then the other things, just think of them as temptations that arise from time to time, that you're going to just observe, and you're going to wait for your inner instructions before you take any actions. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther. Well, let's go to Lisbeth next. You can unmute there.
Thank you. Hi, David.
Hi, Lisa.
Sorry. Yeah, I just came from Mallorca 3 days ago. And it was so clear for me that I had to come home and deal with my ex and step out of littleness and unworthiness. And I felt so in good cheer that I was having the tools. And but the minute I came home, there was this accusations and one-sided communication, and so for 3 days I'm trying to figure out how to deal with this. And now this movie, I can just see how, I got so peaceful also during the movie, and I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this thing with my ex. I want to chicken out, but I also know that there will be salvation when I finally look it in the eye and not but I just feel like, let me go inside. I just don't want to deal with this worldly thing, and I also feel shame that I apparently can't do it, that I feel, I don't know, I even can't look him in the eyes. So much confusion now. And yeah, that Thomas Keating went out of the convent, and there is something in me, just go in, and don't have to deal with this world.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that you can give yourself all that permission and allowance to give yourself over to that prayer, to that deep prayer, and actually with the faith and with the confidence that will be the strength, that will be the salvation, that will be the escape from the faulty perception, And this movie is beautiful for that. It's kind of like a meditation to see it in its entirety, because it's just showing us such a strong example of that. And we can see the sparkly eyes, we can see the gentleness, the softness, that just comes through from that staying with the devotion, staying with the prayer of the heart. So I do feel like that's part of it, is that your time in Mallorca was a time to connect with deep within and with your mighty companions, a time of building confidence in the direction that you want to go. And now that you're back, it sounds like it's just 3 days, but it's just been this temptation came up to distract and get too focused on the things of the world, the outcomes of the world. And when you want to come inside, that is your prayer, and then to go inside and let that be the solution. There are, when I think about Christian Science practitioners or religious science practitioners, I've had a number of friends that have been that, and that's all they do with their life is they pray. I've had stories of people who have had all kinds of seemingly complicated issues going on in their life, and then they go into prayer by themselves or with a prayer partner, and the clouds part and the sun comes out, and it's a very strong reflection of the power of prayer. So I think that's part of it. Of course, some of the darkness will come up as you focus your attention in this way, but I don't think you should feel like it's an either or. I feel like the more you give yourself over to the deep prayer, and the more you allow these witnesses like this movie to bring that sense of strength and softness there, that's the momentum of what you want to, how you want to live your life. That's a symbol to you of, I want to live this way. I want to devote my days to this. And you can do that. Like you are going through, many of us have gone through that, where we have a determination or we feel something inside that's very strong, and then the role of the accuser appears, and the accusations come, but we can't lose our focus when that happens. Those are just one of those things that we have to be literally carried through, carried beyond when the accuser comes. Because that's just our own condemnation thoughts, our own self-critical thoughts that are being acted out in front of us. And the ego says, no, that's someone else, and it's trying to put it as if it's happening to us instead of happening for our healing. It tries to put it out. So I would just say, you've just come back to Holland from this time in Mallorca, and this is a time of prayer, and to be very faithful and vigilant. Just when you were down in Mallorca, that's what you were focusing on, and then you knew the time would come when you would go back. But really keep the faith with the prayer right now. Don't let a few happenings and occurrences and circumstances throw you off, because I can hear Jesus saying, now is the time for faith. You've come this far, so please just keep the faith, and you will be carried through this. So thank you, Lisbeth.
Thank you. Okay, David, maybe next we can go with Stephen. You can unmute there.
Hey, thank you. Brother, it's good to see you. And I think of these Saturdays now as on the trampoline with David. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've got something on the screen that was unmuting myself, and I thought, well, maybe that's what I'm doing, is I'm muting myself and letting it come through. But I think of these Saturdays as on the trampoline with David. I have an idea. I think we should take this in 52 weeks, a trampoline your way to gnosis. You know, just go from jazz hands to collapsing the alpha and the omega. You know, it's like I'm here out in jazz hands land, and I'm just, this is the collapsing of alpha omega. So thank you so much. Setups are beautiful as always, and the commentary. It's just the playfulness of coming and jumping on that trampoline and getting those hits on that crack pipe. I want to share something. I love the subtitle to this movie. It's The Rising Tide of Silence. And I had an experience I want to share as a miracle. And it was a couple of weeks ago. My high school buddy was high school and college buddy. Hadn't seen him in a while, and he was passing through. He was being a passerby going from Dallas over to California. I live in Phoenix. And so he stayed with me for a couple of days. And back when we were together in high school and college, we would talk about our experiences. Our purpose together, we knew it as friends, fellow, Gnostic travelers, if you will. But we would always go deep, and we would talk about what was ever going on. And it just was, that was the nature of our relationship, was quite mystical. Time passes. I hadn't seen him, but I knew that he had been going into the contemplative traditional path and coming into a deeper awareness, as have I, and going deeper into the gnosis, into the contemplative prayer, into the Course in Miracles. So he arrives, and it's a wonderful experience. And I also found myself tempted to get into the theology and to look at the differences and that let that delay our experience. So I noticed that was going on, but once I caught that and let that go, it opened up just being in the experience together and sharing with each other, like we were a couple of wizards throwing fireballs at each other of just our experience with the Holy Spirit. And it was just so fun because we found the common ground, we found the common language. We knew it's the same journey. We're coming into this vertical experience and just finding the words to bring us into that sameness. And it was exquisite. And we were having a good time. And we're driving down the highway together to go get a bite to eat. Now, a lot of metropolitan areas, they have prisons all around the area, and Phoenix is the same way. Outside of Phoenix, there's a town called Florence, where they have a state prison there. So he and I are driving along, sharing the journey, sharing these things, and there was an Amber Alert, a massive billboard with an Amber Alert, and this goes to the film, and the Amber Alert, and I look up, and the Amber Alert says, 2 inmates escaped Florence prison, be alert. And I did a double take, and I just said, brother, did you see that? And he said, no, what was it? And I said, get your camera out because there'll be another one. And sure enough, we kept driving, and it said, 2 inmates escaped Florence prison, be alert. And I just laughed. I said, do you know what we're being shown? I said, we're in our own Shawshank movie. I said, we're the inmates. I said, we're escaping this prison. I said, that sign is for us. That's a quantum breadcrumb for us because we're having these conversations of getting out of the cage. And it was just he laughed because he got it. We both got it together, and we were just laughing at how that wants to show up. And I noticed that it's really just showing up wonderfully in my dream, because after your showing of Fatima last week, wow, it just, connections were popping up for me, David. I mean, there's your virgin, there's your innocence, there's the rose, there's the symbol, even what was happening for me was just an exquisite experience of the timing of that, when that whole vision took place right before World War I, and how at the same time, coincidentally, I get this radio show that comes in, Gnostic radio show about Carl Jung and the writing of the Red Book and the Black Books, which was his mystical visions with Sophia. So it's the same. It's Sophia, and how this Fatima, and I realized that's the Holy Spirit. And of course, in Mexico, where you are, we have the Virgin and Tecuatelupe and her appearances to, Juan Diego and all of that. And that, David, it was just flooding around in my mind in wonderful, playful way of Holy Spirit saying, yes, I will appear in different forms, in different ways, and here's how I'm picking it up for you. And it's the Virgin of Guadalupe. And I may have shared this before, but Tecuatelupe in the Nahuatl language means she who comes flying from the region of light like an eagle of fire. Well, the Spaniards heard Guadalupe, and that's the Virgin. The Nahuatl understood it as their symbols, and how if you look at the tilma and you flip it around, it has all the Nahuatl symbols of their journey, their spiritual journey. So long story short, it was just swirling around in my mind, and I thought, well, this is the rising tide of silence. And then here we come into Thomas Keating and the whole deeper journey into this silence. And it's just, it's exquisite, and it's playful, and yes, at times terrifying. Absolutely. I keep thinking about that. We got to go through this. Got to walk through this. But I just want to say thank you. And I just want to give everyone what I call a big orange squeezy. And if you look on your phone, you have the hug. And if you think of a big sunset just enveloping you with all that love, and like an old-fashioned hug that's just full embrace, full-on hug, and an orange sunset. I put an orange and a hug together, and that's the big orange squeezy. So, big orange squeezies to everyone. And thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll keep that in mind. 2 escaped inmates drawn up into the gnosis through a big warm squeezy. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Just a reminder to everyone, you are being translated, so please just go slowly for our translators. Next, we can go to Muna. You can unmute there.
Thank you. Hi, David, everyone.
Again. Hi, Muna.
I love the movie. I mean, I fell in love with Thomas Keating. He's such a beautiful soul. And there were so many points that really touched my heart. But I thought of him as a very good advertisement for God, because from a purely logical point of view, I could see how going to God is the only thing that makes sense. And he was such a good proof of that. I mean, just looking at him and his life and his way of being, it's like he doesn't have an inside and outside. It's like he's completely in integrity. It's like there's no psyche anymore. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful symbol. So I'm becoming more and more a yes for God. I don't understand what the blocks are. I mean, I love God, but obviously the unconscious plays its thing. The ego does its thing. And when Elizabeth was sharing, I got really present to an upsetting belief in my mind. I was going to say my Achilles heel is relationships with people. It's always been, from the get-go, the real test of my love for God. But when Elizabeth was sharing, I got present to this upsetting belief that something happened and I got caught in the world. And that's a very traumatic kind of belief, which is like, I experienced a lot of trauma in the world, but I think that the trauma in the world is a symbol of that belief that I got caught in the world and I can't come out of it. And and so I'm constantly afraid of dealing with the world. Like she was saying, I don't want to deal with this. And so I didn't deal with the world. And so God makes sense to me, for another reason, which is like, he's my refuge from dealing with the world. But Holy Spirit obviously says to me, God and people, loving people, and relationship with people is the same. So I have to have a breakthrough in that. It feels like, it's hard to explain it, but it feels like that part of the mind that still believes the world is real. It's like that section of the mind that hasn't come to terms that it's all just a big adventure, in consciousness. So that needs some work there. But I wanted to ask you about a dream I had a very long time ago. which is, again, Elizabeth reminded me of this when Holy Spirit took me out of my marriage, almost grabbed me out of it, although I was kicking, screaming, and it took 2 years, but she got me out of it, and I got a mystical experience saying that it's written, it's already written, that I'm going to get out of the marriage. So I get out of it, and then I met someone, and we're going back almost a decade now, and it felt like, yeah, this relationship makes more sense in terms of, self-fulfillment and self-realization. But we never really got together. And then I saw this deep, deep dream, and in the dream I was present to source. And I even saw, a field of grass and a blade of grass kneeling to source in complete reverence. It was a beautiful, beautiful dream. But I was also shown like 2 circles, one me and one this other person that I don't seem to connect with. And then I heard the expression charged ions. That's all I heard. Charged ions is the reason why the 2 circles aren't merging. And he's a symbol of merging with God anyway. So I don't know if anything comes to mind when you hear that, or does it make any sense to you? Yeah, that's it. I just wonder if you have any insights. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Muna. Well, yeah, I would say 2 circles merging. It's in one sense, it's almost like an eclipse kind of symbol. But I do feel like that's when there is this draw toward the light, which is the merging, then anything unlike the light will get flushed up and acted out, just in order that it to be released. And many times that people who go through a rapid spiritual awakening, or through we'll say even a very accelerated thing, is somewhere deep inside there's a prayer to let whatever's hidden be exposed. And so that's why a lot of times relationships that are part of spiritual healing can be very disorienting, disjunctive. They can seem like volatile. It's because lots of the unconscious mind is just getting like shaken up and brought up for release. So it's not like these ideas sometimes of soulmates coming together, and then when they meet, then the harmony is there, and they live happily ever after. Jesus paints a little different picture in the Manual for Teachers, where he says there are those that come together for life, for a lifelong relationship, and if they decide to learn it, the perfect lesson is before them and can be learned. But he also happens to throw in that these relationships, that they may be hostile, perhaps for life, he says. And so he just shoots down the soulmate image and portrays a more of a picture of there has to be the clearing. That's the point of coming to this world. Like before there seems to be an incarnation to this world, the only reason that there would even seem to be an incarnation is because of guilt. The mind is still drawn to something that it believes is real that's not. And that has to get exposed for what it is. So that's what literally, like that's the momentum of the energy underneath the healing, is that there's still a guilt searching outside for something, searching for something in externals, and that's what brings upon the experience of the world and of perception. So, yeah, I think that's just I would see that as a beautiful kind of a dream symbol. If you're seeing merging circles, that just seems to be pay attention, because your mind is going to integrate. It's going to come together, and what seemed to be different will will be shown to be the same. And there will be a process that you go through during that merge as those circles seem to come together. And how fascinating, you got Thomas today, what a symbol. He's bright, he's Yale, he's intellectual, and yet he gives it over. Like he gives his, somewhere deep inside is a prayer of I want you, I want to know you, I want to be one with you, and then the whole movie orchestrates from that like prayer of the heart. So in one sense, this movie was like an answer to a prayer for you. Like, show me the way, show me the possibilities. Give me a role model here, please. Show me a role model. And in that sense, Father Thomas Keating he really served beautifully today. So, thank you, Muna.
Okay, well, let's go with Blanca next. You can unmute there.
Hola, David.
Hi,
Hola.
David. It's always a pleasure to talk with you guys. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for making possible that I can be here. There's so many things I am grateful for. I still have the belief of reciprocity, and last week I wanted to make the payment, but I couldn't do it. Some people came, I did some other payments, but I'm very grateful because everyone has done amazing things for me. And little by little, my mind is opening up to love, to the love that you show. And I just want to ask you something, is that here in this projection, in this mask, for 33 years I was a Catholic. Right now I'm 42. I started being Christian, and yes, I really liked it. But there was also a point where I said, like the writer in the Course in Miracles said, is this knowing God? And that's when I found you. So I'm very happy that I have found you, David. And now my baby in April she's gonna turn 3. And my family that's Catholic want to give her a baptism. But the family from the father's side, she's Christian. So if you do a mass, they won't come. So my family says, if you do something else, we won't go. So it's like that division there. So yesterday, before praying, I was remembering that you have married people. So I thought, I wanted you to make a baptism for my daughter. But if I'm mistaken, just please correct my mind, just to show me where to go and what to do. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you, Blanca. That's interesting. A digital baptism where both sides of the family could come. Well, we'll stay open. Maybe I could do something, a brief digital. I'll pop in. Okay, we'll turn the video on. Oh, there he is. Okay. But it's beautiful, though, that you just have that prayer in your heart where you want to extend love, extend the harmony, and I think the key is offer the invitation, because we will have many opportunities in this life to offer the love in our heart and offer the invitation, but not everyone will say yes to our invitation, and it's because of the preferences. One may be Catholic and say preference for a Mass, the others have a preference for anything except a Mass, and then, they don't seem to come together. But the main thing is you extending the love and you extending the invitation, and that's what you can do. That's within your realm to do that. And as you do that, then at times you have to let go of how the appearances come out, and that's just good practice. Staying with what's in your heart, extending the warm, loving invitation, and then letting the chips fall wherever the chips are going to fall. But thank you for thinking of me for that. And maybe it will happen. Something could have. I've never done a digital baptism though. This would be new for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Blanca. Let's go to Anthea next. You can unmute there.
Unmute. Hi, David. Thanks, Peter.
Hi.
What's coming up for me is, I suppose you might call it intellectual stuff. I've recently gone on to do the lessons again with Aaron and Mark, and I'm seeing the split there so definitively that one person seems to be so devoted to the miracles and even the language of the miracles, and the other person's into, I don't know, bringing sort of other teachings into it. And having paid a lot of money for this, because I thought I wanted to do the lessons again with purpose, with meaning, with consciousness, but now I'm just seeing my choices. I just want to come back to you because I just, the truth is true and nothing else is true. And I'm just seeing this. I'm just seeing the lack of clarity and the lack of purpose, and I only want to see that. And so I feel like I want to drop it away again and just come back to this purity, and I don't know. I'm so in it. I'm so in it that I can't see what's the truth of it all. And I suppose it's just another lesson, isn't it, to forgive both of them and plough through it. Is that it? And then with Thomas Merton and Keating, and it's just the absolute pain that you have to go through is what I'm seeing, and I just don't think I've got the strength for it. Well, I know I haven't, and it's the devotion that gives me the strength, and I haven't got the devotion, and it all seems to be in the mind, like it's look, that's not true. I have enormous feeling devotion, but it's always by myself. It's always when I'm just there with God. It's not when I'm with people at all. I just don't want to be with people at all. And so it's just, okay, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you. I think
the Christian way seems to be this.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That I was going to say that the mystics in the Christian tradition draw me much more than kind of the miracles does sometimes. I still seem to be split between this devotion in the Christian way, the old Christian way, where it's just silence and devotion to God rather than this more external way that you're teaching. And I know this is only part of me speaking, because this other part that just loves everything because it's so joyful and it's so out rather than in. And I suppose it has to be a marriage between the two, doesn't it?
Yes. I think today I was talking about just clearing the filter and polishing the filter, and it's a very positive thing. You just have to remember that you are progressing, you are evolving, you are healing. Even when you do something, take an action or sign up or do something, and then something comes to you of being drawn to something that feels like it has more resonance, those are discernment lessons, and those are what everybody goes through. And so what you're sharing, you shouldn't feel bad about that or be hard on yourself for that, because we will continue to draw forth situations that help us get clearer, to help us become more discerning of what really resonates with us in our heart. And sometimes we can't get so clear on it until we see something where maybe we've taken some steps and then we see something and it hits us very strong, like, stop, wait a minute, this isn't the way. And then the ego will come in and say, well, you've done this, you've committed to this, and you've invested in this, and it's very clever at generating guilt. It wants us to feel like we've done something wrong, instead of just remembering we're just polishing the filter, and we're going to keep polishing the filter. So I would say that's the first thing, is don't be hard on yourself because of whatever you seem to do, but stay with what really resonates, what draws you. It's the same with Father Thomas Keating. I mean, clearly he was progressively drawn more and more into contemplation and centering prayer. You could see it on his face. When he talked about it, he had a big smile. He was really happy. And he seemed to have to go through a lot of things in terms of form around lessons in monasteries and with different roles and with different monks. And yet he did have those mystical experiences where he felt like everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. And those were, you see how happy he got, because then there wasn't this burden of thinking, I've done something wrong or something went wrong. So during our breakout groups, there were a few people that really could feel that experience of things are working together for the good. Things are working together perfectly, and we don't need to be hard on ourselves. We just need to come back to our heart, and just when you feel something is helpful for you or nurturing and supportive, then it's okay to move in that direction. And you don't have to kind of go through all your mistakes. The ego always just wants you to count the mistakes. It doesn't want you to just simply move towards that which feels helpful. It always is looking back on things. So if you just keep that in mind, just chalk it up to another beautiful discernment lesson. That's all it is. Nothing to feel bad about.
You might need to unmute there again, Anthea.
Thank you, Peter. That, and I've heard it in a lot of New Age teachings too, that Christ coming into form, and Keating spoke about it too. That the marriage of the human and the divine, and I seem to be caught between that and what I think that I'm hearing from you is, well, it feels like a complete disregard of the body, and yet the Christian, that teaching is that we are to fully embody the Christ in ourselves. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I was talking earlier with Sadi about being done through. So you might think of it as there is a divine purpose, and the Holy Spirit's use for the body as a communication device is still saying, as long as you use the form or the body in alignment with forgiveness, then it is a helpful use. And in that sense, we are demonstrating, I wouldn't use the word embodying Christ, because Christ is spirit. And Jesus said in the Bible, that which is born of the flesh is flesh, that which is born of the spirit is spirit. He was making a clear distinction. He was even doing it with time. He was saying, before Abraham was, I am. So he was talking about a presence that was prior to time, prior to history. And so that's very transcendent. But in practical terms, when you hear the word embodiment, just think use. I want to be used by Christ. And in that sense, it's a way of opening your awareness up to more of a stronger alignment with spirit, when you allow the spirit to use the body for communication. Knowing that the ego uses the body for pride, for pleasure, and for attack. And if the body is used for the ego's purposes, that's death. That's just a pathway of sickness and death. And that's not our direction. We're going to the resurrection. We're moving toward the resurrection of the mind. So thank you for that distinction too, because there's a lot of subtle points like that where we need a discernment and a retranslation. Thank you.
Okay, David, well, we have another 4 hands up. Shall I keep on going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
we can go to Elisa next. You can unmute.
Hi,
Hi.
David, everyone. So I'm not sure what to say anymore. I thought I wanted to say something, but now I'm not sure. I guess I just wanted to talk to you because it's been a while since, last time we spoke. Because I moved out. I'm in my new apartment now. And so last Saturday, I joined the retreat, but I couldn't join the movie session, so I couldn't watch the movie with you. I'll watch it someday, I guess. But not having talked to you in 2 weeks, for me, it's like a very long time, like a while. So I just wanted to talk to you and share. And I've experienced some emotions since I started living here in my apartment alone, like fear and emotions that I was no longer experiencing before I moved in. And I had a lot of doubts and fears, but then I started praying and connecting with Jesus again. And since yesterday, I'm kind of feeling better now and connecting with you all. It's really good watching the movie. And it really made me happy when you said that everything that happens is for our own happiness. Like everything that happens is to reach that state of happiness, and whatever it is. And of course, in our perception, that is limited. we think, oh no, I mean, that cannot be leading to happiness. In no way. Like, I'm having some situations that are like a challenge for me. Like, there's a light in a business in front of my apartment, and they turn on a light during all night, and that light is on, and it's really really bright, and and I don't like it. So I've been dealing with that. And they have two big lights that they keep on all night. They turned off one of them. I went to talk to the owner, but they turned off one of them, but the other one is still on. And it bothers me for some reason. So I've been dealing with that, and I've been very stressed, experiencing a lot of stress in regards to that, even if it can seem like a small thing for everyone or anyone. But to me, it's like, I don't know, it's a source of a lot of stress to me. So there's something there. But I'm trying to focus on the fact that even that small things are there for a reason. Like it's not just about getting them to turn off the light, but there's something else. So I try to pray and tell Jesus, guide me here. I don't want to listen to my ego. I want to listen to you. So you tell me what to do and how to think, and it helps. But of course, I feel the pull, like I was sharing during the previous small group session. There's a pull to think like I've always thought. And of course, that way of thinking leads me to suffering only, and like feeling like a victim and so small and powerless. So I am in that. I have the intention of, but it's difficult. Of course, sometimes it feels difficult to listen to Jesus instead of listening to the ego, and I'm there. So whenever I start feeling something, an upset feeling, or I start feeling uncomfortable, and then I start going, oh, Jesus, help me here or guide me. And what really, I got very excited when you said that, again, that everything that happens is for happiness. And I really want to believe that, because it's great if everything, whatever happens, is just for that, to take us to a state of mind of happiness, joy, freedom, real power, and like to the state where we can just soar. That's great. So I want to be there and yes, and keep moving forward towards that goal. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And I'm glad it's been a while since you talked about moving into your new apartment. So I'm happy to see you're settled in, and now all you're praying for is a reinterpretation of the light. We watched Fatima, and the light came at the end. It was called The Miracle of the Sun, but yours is a nighttime light. So that's interesting, though. If that's your biggest forgiveness lesson, is there's too much light, that's a good symbol. Thank you. Glad to hear from you again.
Okay, let's go to Stephanie. You can unmute there.
Thank you. Hi, David.
Hi, Stephanie.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. Very beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I really love these movie sessions very much. And I think last time, or at some point, I got the feeling, you have these beautiful words and you have these beautiful introductions and commentaries. And suddenly I said, oh, I think I had the feeling that the movies are just made to paint your beautiful words and to color your words and make them more understandable. So that felt very beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice use of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Looks like a Pocahontas, paint with all the colors of the wind. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and this movie, yeah, it touched me really. Yeah. When you started, you introduced the movie by with the words like from you introduced Thomas Keating, like, yeah, he opened his arms and he invites me to come inside and come into the prayer of the heart, and you had this gesture like with open arms. And from this moment, I was like, it took me like my heart opened. And every time Thomas Keating was speaking, it was like, oh, I just felt all this love coming from his mouth and the sparkling eyes I saw also. So it was very touching and so loving, the whole movie. Yeah, and it spoke really a lot to me. And I experienced lately a lot, yeah, my prayer are answered. And when I yeah, and it feels like, when I say surprise, it's a wrong word, but it's like a deep, yeah, it's like the answer just comes. I can't, just comes over me. And that is very beautiful. And yet, and I have miracles and really beautiful experiences. And yet there was one part in the movie when I was really, when Thomas Keating got, he was the overseer of the monastery. And then there were like people wanting to enter the monastery. And Thomas Keating said to them, I wrote it even, they can't join because they don't have a vocation, because they don't spend their time well. And something was really like, hit me, like I felt really like something, that's what I feel. And I said, oh, and this gives me the feeling of like, yeah, what is it? Like, it's not my, okay, it's even, he talked to me, so no, you can't come because it's a lack of my vocation, something like this. And still it touched me, so I wanted to share this even. Yeah, but yeah, otherwise I really loved this, and I really love to watch it again because it was so beautiful, a lot of wisdom. And yeah, and I felt also when he shared in the, when he was looking at the leaves of the trees, and he was looking to them, and then he said, yeah, they are not waving to me, they are waving to the God in me. And then he added, yeah, and I'm waving back. That was really, that felt really good. So
Yeah, it's lovely. That's beautiful, Stephanie. It does light your heart up, and you can feel it. And then even the one part where you noticed about him talking about the vocation, it can touch something deep inside, because part of the belief of coming to this world is that we have a band of time between birth and death to use just for ourselves. And it's almost like a currency. We have time to spend between birth and death. And then this idea of vocation and use of time and good use of time, or the Spirit's use of time, is it's very threatening to the ego. It's almost like, hey, no, I'm me, and your spirit, and I've got my time to spend here. And I think also that when he was in a position of being an abbot, that's part of the role of abbots, is abbots have to make those kind of decisions at the monastery. That's part of the role. And but it's very good that you were able to be inspired by the movie, but also that you were able to notice where there's something that touched you very deeply, or even triggered. It's even the triggers are valuable because they help us get more in touch with what's going on in our mind. So thank you for sharing all that. And actually, it is a precious thing when we can share these movies, and you feel deeply impacted. It seems like that's just something that you can give yourself to. Like, okay, this is working for me. So I'm glad. I'm very glad. I'm glad you were very transparent with all of it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, let's go to Monica next. You can unmute there.
Hi, David. Hi, everybody.
Monica.
So, what a great journey the last 3 weeks has been. It's been, wow, we went from way over here to way over here. And I feel like out in the dream, my life has been mimicking this from fully being in the world of fear to knowing that the answer was going within, and that a completely different reflection happens when I do that. And I was thinking, as everyone was speaking, that as I'm going through a divorce right now, I'm getting an outpicturing still reflected to me of a lot of anger and harsh words, and when I get these emails, I feel very hurt. And when I'm in the wrong place, I feel very hurt. When I'm in the right place, it seems more like just like a barking chihuahua, like just this noise, you know. It doesn't grab me the same. And I was saying to our breakout group how it's surprising to me, almost to the point where I thought, well, am I nuts? Is this wrong? That I feel so much love for this barking chihuahua who's being so aggressive. But there's a part of me that has a deep compassion for what it must be to push someone to be so harsh. And so I thought, gosh, why do I love this person so much? And it's because I just love. And that's okay to just love, even if that's coming in because I'm seeing, as you said, what I need to see. This person's bringing me exactly what I need to see within my own unconscious mind. I get that. So I'm really grateful right now. In the movie, what struck me was the part about him still having that issue with his dad, and how out of nowhere, his dad helped him, and he was released. He was free. And my mom recently passed, and she was the first person who was very aggressive, the first barking Chihuahua in my life. And her whole time here, she was like that. And she left me everything she had. And what I realized was, I'm so grateful for that, but she gave me everything she had. She brought it on big. She brought it on so I could be free. And I'm really feeling that right now. And I hope I keep on feeling that, because I know that's the path. And also I wanted to share that she actually put me in ballet when I was little because I wouldn't stop dancing. So, well, might as well stick her in ballet. And then I became a professional ballet dancer. So I've always used the body as a means of expression. And then I became a yoga therapist. So it's now a means of going within and helping others to go within. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing my own practice and having a new experience I've never had before, which is when I'm doing it and I can see an image in the mirror, the reflection, I keep saying to myself, who is that? It's just a form. I don't see brown hair. I don't see height or weight, I just see this form that's moving. And that's so liberating. It feels like it's undoing a very long history of identifying with something that just really takes up a lot of time, but isn't necessary. So, thank you for letting me share. And thank you so much for these Saturday movies. It's super fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Thanks, Monica. Okay, let's go to Jesung next. You can unmute there.
Hey, David.
Hi.
Hey, good to see you. It's interesting we're talking so much about time because I was reading the book last night, and I was reading the sections that you read on YouTube, the lessons that go with lesson 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think. And I believe it was the illusion of needs. And it talks about time and space. And I was listening to Kundalini music in the background, and it was just really nice. And I became happier and happier and happier as I was reading. And I remembered what Frances said 2 weeks ago when I shared. She said that when she reads the book to become happy. And I was like, this is what Frances said. and then you said also, this course is a course path to spirituality for intellectuals. But you have to have forgiveness first before you can learn anything, or something like that. And this illusion of needs section starts with, you who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. And then it goes on to the next page, and it says, ultimately, space is as meaningless as time. Both are merely beliefs. And I know this movie had it addressed beliefs a lot, what you believe. The part that confuses me is the part that follows that, which says the real purpose of this world is to use it to correct your unbelief. And then goes on to aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level, and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected in sorting out the false from the true, the miracle perceived along these lines. And it just finishes with perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Believe this and you will be free. Only God can establish this solution, and this faith is his gift. So the part that confuses me is if time isn't real, they're just beliefs. Is it because, so is this course trying to get me to dissolve all my beliefs? Or is it using my beliefs as a tool, since that's where I'm stuck, where I'm in the realm of space, time, and beliefs, and just meeting me where I'm at to pull me back into the light?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I think it initially uses what you believe in to lead you to the light, which means to unwind from a false identification with those beliefs. So in that sense, the Spirit meets you right where your mind is at. Whatever it believes in, the Spirit will reach you exactly in that point. And yet, it is taking you to basically, as it says, heal the unbelief. And that is a rare time where Jesus uses the word unbelief. I remember a Christian song where the woman is singing to Jesus, Jesus, I believe, heal my unbelief. Even the song has the very same word. It's a rather rare use of the word. But what Jesus tells us is the problem is you don't believe fully. Like he says, if you reach a point of full belief, we'll say that's the top of consciousness. That's what forgiveness is. And it's all encompassing. It heals the whole perception. But partial beliefs, which are beliefs in time and space, those are the blocks to believing fully. And that's what he's calling unbelief. Actually, he's saying, while you hold on to these beliefs in time and space and all the aspects of time and space and all the levels and dimensions, that you are not fully believing. You aren't fully giving your mind over back to God. You're not giving your mind fully to forgiveness. You're giving it to forgiveness and something else. And that's very confusing. So, yeah, that's a very good, subtle question that you're bringing up. And even to say, heal my unbelief is another way of saying, heal my unconscious mind. That's really what you're saying. It's like, raise it up to the light so that I can believe fully, or I can forgive. And then I'm ready for the light. Then you can take me home at that point. But our focus is really on the forgiveness right now. And what that means is leave no scrap, no shred of belief hidden from the light. We don't always know what's down there in the unconscious mind, but we can tell when we get upset at anything in this world that we've triggered. We've triggered it. And at the beginning, I listened to a lot of music, and Jesus took me to a lot of movies because I had prayed. I said, please help me tap into and expose my unconscious mind. And he knew I love movies and music. So he's like, great, I know the perfect thing for you. So he would have me play a particular song and tears. And I'd say, oh yeah, that's emotional. I don't even know why, but that's very emotional. And then I'd go see a movie, and then the same thing, a lot of emotions coming up during the movie. So that just shows you how much the Spirit loves us to use things, even like music and movies, like we had the movie today. And I know these last few movies have all been very helpful for you, very impactful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think this is really answering that passage that you just read. It's just a way of showing how helpful this all really is. So thank you. Thank you for bringing it up for all of us. Oh, another question.
Actually, it's not a question. I just, while I was reading this, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed, which was where I was studying, and I'm going to turn off my video. I took a picture of it. Okay. Can you see that picture?
Yes.
So there's the book, my ruler that I used to underline, the pen, the spoon, the watch propping up the tablet with a cover which has a picture of the cosmos, my sleep mask, and the lamp that I use to light everything. And the lamp is on top of the cosmos, which has been propped up by time. And then there's the sleep mask that I use to cover my eyes. And then there's the spoon. And I thought, what's the spoon? And I was like, oh my God, I remember now. In the Matrix. You know, try to bend the spoon, that's impossible. And then he says, then how do you do it? There is no spoon. And I was like, I had to take a picture. I had to take a picture of it because it was just too weird.
Thank you, Jessung. You're like our Holy Spirit detective, and you've just collected all of the evidence we need to wake up from the dream. And you just gave us a little tour. That's our toolbox. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go to Veronica next. You can unmute there.
Hola a todos.
Hi, everyone.
Hola, David.
Hi, David.
Hi.
It's gonna be very funny, David, what I'm gonna say, but I was waiting for this moment to express because I feel that I'm gonna relax. Today in the morning I woke up with, we could say, a bit upset with you because I dreamt with you, and in the dream you were laughing. You were laughing at me, and I was so upset that you were doing that. And suddenly I felt like a warm hand that told me, no, 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 no. He's not laughing at you. How do you think? How do you think he's laughing at you, David? He's laughing with you. Look at him, look at him. He's laughing with you. And that person that was warmly clarifying this, that you were laughing with me, it was Esther. Thank you, Esther, because you come to my dreams.
Now we've got appearing in each other's dreams. Oh.
I'll just need to unmute again.
Last week, I was totally in communion with the consistency in love, in God, on my holy relationship. It was really healing the retreat for me. And to go through this week with frustration, with pride, it was like this big contrast in my mind. A contrast that at some point I said to myself, like, I think I need to relax of so much David and so much A Course in Miracles. And that's where it started attacking me, my false mind. And I think that's why I dreamt with you last night. Because I hadn't even done the register. I haven't even registered for the movie until after I woke up from my dream. And Esther clarified that you were laughing with me. And that this beautiful smile was just like a warm hug. So I usually don't ask questions, but today I do want to ask you something. If you have anything to say or compliment, it's about why is it so drastic that one day I was so consistently in love, consistent in God, feeling my relationship, my holy relationship with the whole world, looking at everyone and everything in the world like just one thing, and the next day it's completely the opposite. I was going through the whole week it was like that, and I'm grateful that the witness from the father, the priest in this movie, that humbleness and that devotion. But yes, I did want to, if you could please answer me, why is it so drastic, that change? One day I'm in holy relationship and the other day I don't know who I am.
Yeah. Well, it really comes back to the unconscious mind, which Jesus says is the dream that you dream in secret. And it just means that it's hidden. It's pushed out of awareness. And that's why it's shocking when the darkness comes into awareness, because it seems like a contradiction. You know, you were feeling so connected and so in holy relationship with the whole world, and then the unconscious thoughts come up as like a sharp contradiction to that experience. So but this is how the healing occurs. Even in the movie, you could see there was a point where Thomas Keating was reading St. John of the Cross, Dark Night of the Soul, and he was beginning to study the lives of the saints and all that they went through, because he just wanted to be prepared for when that happened to him, when the dark night came into his mind, even though he was sharing with us that the dark night is really filled with stars, and the light is really the point of everything in the dark night. He was saying really a symbol of stay focused on the light, stay grateful for the light, stay open and embracing of the light. So that's just what happens. That's part of the journey. When the unconscious comes up, then that's the point for forgiveness. That's why it's coming up, just so it can be seen and let go. And that's the purpose. That's where it's coming from.
Okay. Well, why don't we go to Luz next? You can unmute there.
Thank you, Peter. This was such a profound movie for me. What an experience. It was lovely and it filled me with peace. The expression on his face, what transpires through him in his latest years, after he drops the role of abbot and he goes through dark shaking. It's like the tree shaken, so the fruit that is ripe falls, and then the tree can continue to grow. That really, really touched me, his peaceful expression. And this week, I had a very interesting experience. I'm sure you remember almost a year ago when I was at La Casa de Milagros, at that retreat, my first retreat with you, there was a lot of fear because of the seeming illness and diagnosis of this body that is like a death sentence in some aspect, you know. But then you mentioned something that a little magic and a little miracle was okay while you get used to the miracles and shift into that. And I thought, oh, that's very wise, you know. Okay, I'm going to try this new doctor that is not so radical about cut, and it's homeopathy and herbs and seems like safe magic, a little magic and miracles. And I've been very steady with my practice and so grateful for you and all the community to be in my life. And there's this therapist where I live that accompanied me before, during, and after the chemo with alternative healing methods. And this week, first he told me, instead of 3 times a week, I think I need to see you 5 times a week. And I go like, oh, okay, well, listen to that. And then 2 days later, he says, no, we're not going to do 5 times. We're going to do only 2 times a week. And I go like, that's interesting. And then he says me, no, only 1 time a week. And I go like, okay. And instead of going into fear and panic, my first reaction was, thank you. You're showing me I don't need this magic anymore. I'm just going to stay in my state of mind and peace and quiet and my practice, because I completely trust this path. Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in me. But it was very interesting to see that there was no fear, because it's 5 times a week and then 2 and then 1. And of course, I'm going to go next Thursday. That is my following appointment. And say, I think we need a break. And goodbye. Thanks for everything and bye for now. Good morning, good evening, and goodbye. You know, it's like, I don't think that, I mean, the Spirit is showing me, you don't need this. I mean, just drop it. And that was lovely. And another thing that touched me deeply in the movie was the scene where the leaves of the trees are shaking. There's a lot of shots in the movie of the wind moving through the leaves of the trees. And in my soap opera, I've always been very sensitive to that, to the wind and the wind. For me, it's the spirit touching me very profoundly. And I remember the first retreat I'd attended at La Casa de Milagros with Ana Paola and Ken and Andy. I was looking at them sharing and conducting the retreat, and behind them there was the garden and all the leaves. And every time the leaves were moving, I could feel, I love you. I felt really, love was telling me, I love you, hello, I love you, I am here for you. So that all the scenes in the movie where there was the wind shaking the trees was an amazing sign of love for me. I mean, right now I go look outside and there's lots of fronds and leaves and greens, and they are saying, I love you. I'm so grateful. And I want to thank Monica for the barking chihuahua. Thank you. Thank you. What a contribution to my life. Because I remember last week in the Fatima movie, I was still perceiving my mom as a dangerous Doberman. Dangerous Doberman. But today I can look at her as a barking chihuahua, you know. Maybe she just needed love and cuddling, and that's why she made so much noise. So thank you, Monica. I will use that. And thank you, David, for this amazing, beautiful prayer devotional movie. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Luce. Beautiful. We'll remember that tonight. Rejoice with you. Mom has been upgraded from a Doberman to a barking Chihuahua. She's on the way to the light. You're letting the grievance go for sure. Beautiful. Okay, we have time for one more. It looks like I see Mexico co-living right there in the same room where Luce was last March. We have co-living now. So let's wrap it up with this beautiful expression. Sabine and the light. There's so much light there coming out of your head that it's like...
Maybe I have to go...
No, it's good. It's very mystical.
It's very mystical. Normally, I would not be here anymore because I asked Lynn 20 minutes ago if I can raise my hand, and she said, no, I think it's over. And I wanted to leave, and then she came to me because more people were sharing, and that maybe you can share. So it has to be, and I actually feel my heart is so, okay. It's like, I kind of feel like my first sharing into the kingdom. I don't know. Because there's so many things. The movie was so beautiful. And it was like really an answer of my prayer. And it shows me like what Thomas was speaking about. It was, yes, I know what it is. I know this feeling. I really know this feeling. When I'm one with God, I experienced it so many times in the last year. And at the moment, last days, I had a little bit difficulties to come again into this. And I had 2 weeks ago, I had a mystical experience after rewatching in Dark City. It was so intense that I was praying, take me away from here. But it lasts 2 days, and okay, then some days after this, I fall down in my catheter and I hurt my knee and I just can't walk really good at the moment. So there's so much coming. But in the end, I know it's my inner feeling and my inner connection with Jesus, and it's so deep. And after our breakout session, I saw the face of Jesus so near to me. I was in such a meditation. And yeah, what I want to share is at the moment I feel my time is over here. I really can feel it. It's over. Some weeks ago I wanted to stay, but then so many things came and I feel it's over now. And now I'm really at the point that I'm thinking about maybe I rent an apartment in a Hike and stay 1 month here, or maybe I have to go back to Germany. But I know Jesus wants me something to do. There is a deep, because after this I had several mystical experiences, but it's no, you have to stay here. There's something what brings me happiness, because I know he always wants me to be happy. And actually what came to my mind was into the kingdom. One day I was not there because I thought, oh my God, it's so much, I can't go. It was so much sessions. And then I had the vision I was marrying Jesus. But it was so beautiful and funny, and he was dancing with me. The whole time he was dancing, and every time when I had joy and I was happy, Jesus came to my mind and dancing with me. So that it came back. So there is something that makes me happy and what is inspiring me, and this is the only thing I need. And I know I told you about this vision I had also exactly 1 year ago with this cafe, Living Miracles. And yeah, maybe I want to share this. I don't know why, but I know right now, it's not really Sabine who wants to share this. It's something I have to be here and to share this, and yeah, something is coming. I feel it. I don't know. And this is maybe I can give it to you, and maybe you can give me something about this or have something to say about this.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yesterday morning, I think it was, I had so many miracles happening, and in the middle of all the miracles, your name came up. And it was coming from my friend Antonio. I had called Antonio, and he was so happy. He was like, David, I'm living in Paradise Estates. And he showed me his green screen, and he was showing me around with his phone. He was showing me Paradise. And actually, I said to him, I said, yeah, I have some friends that are wanting to move near there from Ahihique. And then he mentioned your name, and another friend of mine, Rita Chance, lives there. And it's right under my nose. It's right when I look out my window, that he said, if you look straight to the lake, that's me down there. So I did feel, when I heard your name, I felt that was your next step. It was going to be part of a little community. I even said, I'll come down with the group and have a dinner down there with the whole little group. Because his name is Antonio, and it's in San Antonio. So I always make jokes. I think, okay, Saint Antonio is now in San Antonio, and I could feel you there. I could really feel you there. Something coming and unfolding, and it's beautiful. He's working on it's a Jesus movie that's with a friend of mine from Portugal, Miguel. And also it's very close. So yeah, it could even be that maybe sometimes we have some things going on in the temple and some different things, and you'll be like a neighbor. So you can share your love and your happiness in your heart in part of neighborly love. So that's good. I'm glad you came forward, because I heard that yesterday, that you'd be coming to be a neighbor of mine. So, and I think San Antonio, he's turning into, like I said, you're like a real estate agent now. You're finding places for people to live. I said you should be like at a real estate commission, because you're like an angel helping people to land in places. So that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad you were able to come forward. That's beautiful. Perfect. Thank you. What a beautiful way to end our day, with Sabine happy. That's good. And you can nurture your knee. Take it easy on the right knee. That's good. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And Pete, we'll send it to you. Thank you for showing up here, and thank you for participating in the poll and sharing what's on your heart, and all the laughter and the healing. And yeah, thank you, Jesus, for another profound movie. So I'll send it back to Pete and bid you all farewell for now.